Welcome, everyone, to the 2025 D1Softball Selection Show Special. That is a little bit of a tongue twister, but I think we're all here for it. We are so excited to not only see the bracket revealed tonight for the NCAA tournament for D1 college softball, but also to have our entire group here with us. I'm Jenna Becerra, one of the co-hosts for the D1 Softball podcast every single week with my co-host, who I'll let herself introduce.
Hey everyone, I'm Amanda Lorenz, current softball player with Athletes Unlimited and Team USA, former Florida Gator. Excited for tonight.
Eric?
I can't believe the season's already done here. Like, what are we doing? Just started the season? Weren't we just in Clearwater here recently? This is going to be interesting. A fascinating, really a fascinating one for the committee. This is a tricky one. It's a very difficult year. A lot of parity in the sport. How do you seed certain teams? There's a lot of fascinating, normally there's one or two things we're focused on a selection night. There's a lot to focus on tonight. It's going to be eventful.
And by the way, that's Eric Lopez, since he didn't say his name.
I don't know what. I forgot my name.
From the In the Circle podcast, along with his number one.
I flew all day, everybody. I flew back from Oklahoma City just to be with the gang. So I'm a little jet. Is this what jet lag feels like?
Yes. Yes, it is, Eric. What I experienced a few years ago. I am Victor Anderson, the one that has to corral Eric on his jet lag afternoons when he's flying back all across the country. And as I told everybody, I told all of you, I got a surprise for all of y'all tonight. But I don't know if that's going to be as big a surprise as what we're going to see in less than a half an hour when the field of 64 gets revealed. Lots of things to talk about, lots of storylines. Jenna, let's get this thing rolling.
Oh, so you're right. Lots to talk about is putting it mildly. Definitely. But first, let's go through the agenda that we're going to go through today. So pretty straightforward, obviously introducing ourselves and meeting all of you as you all join. But then we are going to head into the actual NCAA postseason format. So first, a little bit of how it works, just a reminder, a refresher for all of us and to how this bracket is actually formulated. And then we will hand it over to our expert on the D1 softball team in bracketology, Eric Lopez, to go through his most recent breakdown, his analysis of what he thinks is going to go down tonight. And then we will actually stay on and watch everything revealed together. So we'll have live reactions and learn everything that's happening as you all are. And then we will actually have on a couple of guests, a couple of head coaches of teams that are going to be a part of this field of 64 that we will get into, and we'll break down the actual regions that come out of this selection show before we wrap up. How are we feeling? Team, we good?
We are good. We are caffeinated. We are anxious. It is a Christmas morning for softball fans, and a lot of softball fans are already upset at Mr. Lopez for his final bracketology that came out this morning. Eric,
I flew, so I have no idea what people are talking about.
It's coming from the state of South Carolina, sir. I would just leave it at that.
Our
good friend Softball Randy has issues with you, sir. He had issues with me, but now he has issues with you.
We're fine. We'll be all right.
Everything's fine. We're not delirious or anything.
No, not at all.
We're entering mayhem. Don't worry. So with that being said, we will first just go through what this actually looks like. What does it mean when we're actually looking at the selection show and seeing the field of 64? So first of all, out of the 31 conferences that exist in Division I college softball, each one gets an automatic bid, whoever wins the conference tournament. So not just the regular season conference piece, the tournament itself, they get the automatic bids to go into the NCAA tournament. The rest of the field of 64, that leaves 33 at-large bids that are determined by the NCAA Division I softball committee based on a number of factors that we will get into as well. And then from there are 16 national seeds. And that means that those 16 teams will host a regional with 4 teams in total. So there's the highest seed, a number 2 seed, a number 3 seed, and a 4 seed in each region. But nationally speaking, overall, there's 1 through 16 that get to host that round. Whoever comes out of those regionals, the higher seed, 8 of them will have the super regional. So that's what comes next. So the regional, May 16th through the 18th, the super regional right afterwards, May 22nd to the 25th. And then, of course, whoever punches their ticket from super regionals gets to go to the Women's College World Series. That is 8 teams that will make their way to Oklahoma City once again this year, starting May 29th, going through June 6th. So this is what we're used to seeing every single year, but always a helpful refresher for us as we get ready to see exactly what it means when each team gets placed in their different regions, etc. So really quick, just want to go around the horn with the 4 of us to say what are the biggest questions or things that we're interested in for this one. I'll start by saying I'm curious to see, because of the realignment this year compared to previous years with the different conferences, what previous conference foes are going to end up meeting potentially earlier in the postseason than we're used to seeing. Could we see some of them in regionals together? And we're not used to seeing that, for example. That's something that I'm interested in. Amanda, what about you?
I mean, I'm just cliche. I can't wait to see the top, the 16 seeds, and specifically the top 8. I think that it was really competitive this year with like so many question marks. I feel like we usually come in with most of us. Obviously, Eric is more educated than the rest of us how this thing works, but I feel like I usually go in and kind of know what 1 through 8 is going to look like, and I'm usually like pretty right. And I really like I didn't even want to make a prediction tonight because I think like I just don't know what they're going to do. So I'm so excited.
So true. Very true. Mr. Bracketologist, I'm sure you have a million questions. But
I was going to say, you're going to hold me to one? I mean, I got a lot of questions. This is actually so very, very fascinating. Let's start basic here. Who's the number 1 overall seed here? We usually already know going into this, all right, this team is going to be number 1. That's not the case here tonight. The SEC championship game didn't get played. So is the committee going to go with Texas A&M, who's number 1 in the RPI and has the best metrics? Or do they go with Oklahoma, who won the SEC regular season title? And, oh, yeah, it's Oklahoma. The other thing is, Oklahoma's non-conference schedule strength's not so good. Is that going to impact their seeding? So that's a couple parts there. Jenna, I'm with you on the Stanford and Cal. Are they going to be paired up with some familiar faces? Think of old Pac-12s, right? Could Cal or Stanford, for example, go to UCLA? One of them could go to UCLA. One of them could go to an Oregon. One could go to an Arizona. You could also have a situation where Chelsea Spencer, like I have, could be going to Texas to work and play their old boss, Mike White, former Longhorn, and Stanford also may end up going to Lubbock. I don't know if you're familiar that Nyjah. Do you have any ties there? I don't know. I could be there. So, but the point is, I'm very interested to see how Stanford and Cal get paired up. And then the last couple of hosting spots has become really the dramatic part. I think there's 3 teams for 2 spots. It's Alabama, it's Virginia Tech, and it's Oregon. What is the committee going to decide here? Are they going based on schedule strength? If that's the case, it's going to be Bama and Virginia Tech. Oregon's out. That's why I have Virginia Tech in as the last host spot. You just saw them in the ACC tournament. Yep. However, Oregon won the Big Ten regular season title. Oregon's been ranked in the top 10 most of the year in the most polls. Does that influence the committee? Right. That's going to be a big factor there. They have the top 10 wins against the Florida States of the world and UCLA. Does that maybe overcome their weak non-conference schedule? I think that is going to be compelling. And that Virginia Tech controversial weather game against Clemson, does that have any impact on any of this also? I mean, there's a lot in that. We haven't even brought up who's number 64 in this field. That's always going to be fascinating. Is it Nevada, who won the Mountain West tournament title, a regular season title, but got bounced? Or is it going to be a team like Northwestern, who beat UCLA 2 out of 3? Is it going to be BYU out of the Big 12? I mean, there's a lot. This is one of the more intriguing nights that we might have in a long time.
Yep. Victor, my guy, what do you think?
Eric done took all the questions and left nothing else for me to eat.
Did him last. That's on me.
Anyway, but to Eric's point on the bubble, the Big Ten is the fascinating story from my perspective. First of all, UCLA losing in the conference championship to Michigan, did that cost them a top 8 national seed? Oregon being one and done in the Big Ten tournament, did that cost them a national seed altogether? And if so, where are they going to be placed as a number 2 seed? And then you got the bubble. Indiana, Northwestern, Purdue making a surprise semifinal run. How many of those teams find their way in? And is it at an expense of a school like potentially a North Texas, who had the American Championship in their hands yesterday and lost to the USF? Is it at the expense of a Nevada, who got knocked out in the Mountain West and now has semifinals? That is going to be interesting, because if you see Indiana or Northwestern or possibly Purdue in the bracket early, that's bad news if you're a bubble team.
Yeah, and reminder too for everyone, 19 of the 31 automatic qualifying teams who won their conference tournaments, they were different than the regular season champions as well for those conferences. So more than half.
Wow.
Yes. Something to keep in mind as we go through this and we're thinking about what does that at-large pool look like. And before we jump in, Eric, to your bracketology, this is a great question here from Sooner Bo, kind of thinking along the same lines as us. You know, where's UCLA going to be? Texas Tech, Oregon? Does the SEC get 7 out of the 8 seeds at the top there? And then who, of course, thinking about those number 2 seeds in each regional, who has to deal with Nebraska, right? And who has to deal with the ones who just missed their hosting opportunity and are going to be sent on the road?
Fantastic question, Sooner. I think Texas Tech, that's another point of view. Who is going to be Texas Tech? I believe will be somewhere in the 11 to 16 range. I have them as a 13 seed. That means somebody in the top 8 is going to get Texas Tech paired up in the super regional. That's called a bad draw. Who is the unlucky team in the top 8 that's going to draw Texas Tech? That's another fascinating storyline. UCLA is interesting. Limping into the finish line here. Do they stay a top 8 team? Or if they're outside the top 8, my advice to Kelly Inouye Perez might be to get out of the Big Ten if you're not in the top 8 seed. But we'll see. I think they got to be in the top 8. They got 24 top 50 wins. The resume is still good, but is the committee influenced by how they limped in, losing 2 out of 3 to Northwestern, losing to Michigan in the Big Ten title game? Will that play a factor? And Oregon, obviously, losing to Michigan. Michigan may have played. Michigan either help themselves, but they may have cost the Big Ten too a lot of one host spot and maybe a top 8 spot. But who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Of those 19 who had different tournament champions versus regular season, 2 of them are Power 4. You mentioned it, Michigan for the Big Ten, and then of course Clemson in the ACC. So we will certainly find out, and we know that we have the best in the biz when it comes to bracketology with all of your efforts, Elo. So why don't we just run through what exactly that looks like for your final piece that you put together heading into this tournament?
Well, let's start with this. I think it's a field of 64 that you certainly have the 400-mile radius rule. People got to remember this. You only seed 16. You don't seed 32. Certain teams will be placed in regionals because of the 400-mile radius rule. So when you look at my final bracketology, that is a big influence. Like Amanda Lorenz knows this very well. Her and I pretty much got to know each other for many years. For UCF would get sent to Gainesville to play in a Gainesville regional as an example. So I think those are some things to watch here in these regionals as these brackets come out. Is you might see wait, why is that team being placed there? Bus is going to be a factor. Also, remember, you cannot have 2 teams from the same conference in a region. I know that sounds, because there's a lot of new viewers that are kind of casual, and realignment has kind of thrown some things off. Like, they could be weird that we might see a Stanford paired up with Arizona, for example. You're like, wait a minute, they're in the Pac-12. No, they're in different conferences now.
Right.
So that's something also to watch. Keep that in mind from there. But you got 16 seeds. The top 8 are going to get an opportunity to host the regionals and the super regionals. That's why we keep talking the top 8. Very important on the brackets there. So where do you want to begin, Jenna?
We can jump in right into your brackets, but really quick, also want to reiterate that, yes, the rankings are something that we've looked at, and part of that's the eye test, part of that's based on data, but that does not technically have anything to do with what comes out today in the bracket reveal. So just keeping that in mind too. It is a little bit frustrating at times when that's the case, but it is the reality. So here, Eric, why don't I pull up some of your first brackets here for you to go through?
All right, let's do it. I went with Oklahoma, but I think this is a Oklahoma A&M debate. You could go either way. If you're a metrics person, A&M has top 10 schedule strength, has a ton of wins, 11 top 10 wins, right second to Oklahoma in top 10 wins. What's a shame is I really felt like the winner of the SEC title game would have gotten the number 1 seed. Now it didn't get played, so what happens? Now I have Washington in there as a soft 2 seed going to Norman. Interesting plot line there with Heather Tarr going against potentially Patty Gasser. UConn, the Big East tournament champions. Congratulations to Laura Valentino. And then, of course, Tori Tyson, Howard. Congrats to them. They're an automatic champion there. They're the 1 seed. Now, the 1 seed gets paired with the 16 seed. I have Virginia Tech over Oregon. You see, I have Oregon going to Alabama. Jessica Allister may have some bad memories here about this, Jenna, because it was her Minnesota Golden Gophers team in 2017, similar to Oregon, won the Big Ten, ranked in the top 10, didn't host, got sent to Alabama. Could we be seeing deja vu here all over again? I think we might with Oregon and their schedule strength, going with Alabama as the 15 seed who has played a tough schedule. The 15 would play the 2, yes. One of the other things to watch, do we see SEC super regional matchups getting paired up? How many of them? Do we see ACC super regional matchups? Committee members have told me they don't look at the matchups. They just seed the teams, and whatever the matchups are, they are. Whether you believe that or not, that's what the people in the committee have told me over the years. So that would be interesting. Alabama, Oregon, by the way, you would have Vandergriff and Lushar, the top 2 stolen base leaders in the country in the same regional.
Yep. And as we're looking at this too, to your point, Eric, the number 1 seed and the number 16, that's who would potentially meet in a super regional, which if the seeds hold would be held in Norman. And then the number 2 and the number 15, that's who could potentially meet up in a super regional. So if seeds hold, for example, you're looking at a College Station super regional potentially that has that SEC head-to-head matchup. But man, Oregon is scary in that Tuscaloosa regional. You got a lot of good ones in here.
Got a motivation there. You got Mercer, the automatic from the SoCon. There's the 3, Jackson State. Congrats to them. They won the seed. Georgia Tech out of the ACC is the 2 over in College Station, with Michigan winning the Big Ten tournament title. And, oh, hey, you see Santa Barbara. Whoa. Joe Evans, I think she knows College Station. I think she knows how to get around there, Amanda.
The committee loves that kind of familiarity.
Could happen. Could happen.
Yep. You got that right. You got that right. All right, let's take a look at the next one. As we're absorbing this first piece in, we'll move along to the next set of brackets.
Well, Amanda Lorenz knows this regional very well. The Gainesville regional got Florida. It's a threat. I think Florida's still very strong. I think they should be a top 3 seed. I know they lost early to Ole Miss in the quarterfinals, but they got a tremendous resume. Got UCF, young team with Cindy Ball Malone and the Knights. Haven't been to Gainesville since 2016. Feels like they're overdue there. Potentially could play FAU, who can only bust. And this is a word you're going to hear a lot as this gets going. Who can bust? Who cannot bust? FAU cannot bust to anywhere other than Gainesville. Jordan Clark, back-to-back American Conference regular season champs. I have them in. UCF, FAU, that would be a rematch. Boston as the 4. Congrats to Ashley Waters as they won the Patriot League on Sunday. That's a pretty good, juicy regional there. They would play the winner of the Durham regional in the Supers. Duke, the 14 seed, kind of limping in to the finish line. I think they may drop a couple seeds. I got them at 14. Paired up with Georgia. Those 2 teams are familiar with each other in postseason. Coastal Carolina, congratulations to them winning the dramatic Sun Belt tournament on Saturday, getting the automatic bid, beating James Madison. And then USC Upstate, the champions of the Big South, who can bust to Duke. That's a very the Durham regional. Then Lonnie Alameda, certainly there, Jenna. You just saw them for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
National title contender is a 4 seed playing St. Francis. And then you got Mississippi State and South Florida. South Florida coming from behind to beat North Texas, winners of the American Conference title. Both Mississippi State, South Florida can bust there. That is something to watch from that standpoint with FSU as the 4. And look at that. Look at that. Look who's the pairing. Uh-oh. Got Texas Tech, who I just saw in Oklahoma City. Nija is healthy and 100%. They would open, if I'm correct, against Eastern Illinois. Tara Archibald, the assistant pitching coach for Texas Tech, was the head coach at Eastern Illinois, left to join her father, Jerry, on the staff. And then there's Omaha as the 3. Maria Groff may help Southern Illinois to a regional last year. Could she shoot a regional final? Omaha was a regional final team last year. Watch out for them. And then Jenna, you're familiar with the 2 there?
A little bit, just a little bit.
Listen, now, listen, let me just address this because I know people are like, wait a minute, what are you trying to stir up there? There's TV drama. And Jenna, you back me up on this. Stanford and Texas Tech historically have played in regionals in baseball and recently, actually, I think a couple weeks ago, in tennis. And you look at the seedings, I could see that happening if Texas Tech, for example, is this low of a seed. A possible Texas Tech Stanford matchup could be in play. I understand it's controversial with Nyjah and Stanford. It could be awkward, but the committee is not concerned about that. They're trying to pair up the most balanced matchups, but this could stir up a lot of stuff. Remember a couple of years ago when Oregon was sent to Texas to face Mike White, and that created a lot of storylines there and drama. So we'll see if this happens. I know a lot of people have been blowing up my phone about this. Like, how can this happen? How can this happen? Like, listen, I'm just trying to figure out what they're going to do. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Yeah. All right. Let me just calm down, people, please.
People have been blowing my phone up too about that one, that particular region. But, the committee loves drama. They love that familiarity, like you were saying. And I do want to ask Amanda quickly on her thoughts on the Gainesville region and how that could potentially shape up should this play out the way it looks like right here.
Yeah, I think that I was expecting something like this. Obviously, UCF beat Florida earlier this season, so that should be interesting. And I think FAU has been consistently in our top 25 like all season long. So that's going to be a really tough regional. And I feel like it always is, right? The Florida schools, Florida and Florida State always have such a tough road because you either get stuck with a USF, a UCF, FAU. During my time, it was like, oh, yay, our number 4 seed is Georgina Corrick. Like, doesn't sound too 4 seed to me, right? So tough, but I mean, it is what it is. I think that every single road is going to be extremely hard. So it is what it is.
No, you're so right. I actually, to Eric's point too, I remember playing Texas Tech in a regional that we hosted back in my playing days, back in my day, when I played. So you're so right. That's one thing that we'll keep in mind too, is who do we think could kind of mess things up for some of the hosts in each of these regionals as we continue to plug along. All right. So the next set, here we go.
Whoa, Pig Suey. You got Arkansas as a 5 seed now. Courtney Dyfel and company, tremendous job. They would play St. Louis. St. Louis can bust to Arkansas, so I expect that to be a matchup. St. Louis is an A-10 champion going against Arkansas, and look at who's there. Oklahoma State. That Oklahoma State and Arkansas do not play, ladies and gentlemen, during the regular season. If I am correct on this, they will probably going to be playing. We could have a Ruby Malin versus Robin Herron matchup there. Oklahoma State, Arkansas. That's juicy. And then Northwestern, that is the team I have as my last team in the field at 64, based on 4 quad 1 wins, which are wins against 1 to 25. They have a series win against UCLA. They have a win against Duke and Clearwater, and they have a win against Mississippi State. That's why I have them as my 64th team, even though their RPI is a little high, but I have them in as a 3 seed. And of course, Arkansas, I have them paired up with Clemson. Jenna, you just saw the Clemson Tigers and John Rittman make some history there as the 12 seed.
Oh yeah. Back to back to back comeback wins to go undefeated and take their first ever tournament championship in the ACC. They took the regular season back in 2021, which was their first actual full season as a program in existence after COVID in 2020. So they're definitely peaking at the right time. That's for sure.
I got him paired up against Marist. Congrats to Joe Assanio. Once again, a talented team there. Maya McDonald and company from Marist. They're playing there. Auburn, year 1 of the Malvos. They can bust to Clemson as there's a 2. And then congrats to North Florida, the A-Sun champions. First time ever making the NCAA tournament. Congrats to Jeff Conrad, the head coach. And Amber Pfizer, Jenna, a person you and I know very well, has done an incredible job. Former Gopher, pitching coach now at North Florida.
Yeah, she's been doing fantastic. Super competitive too. It's been really fun to see her in the coaching ranks, still playing professionally as well, which is the case throughout a lot of these teams actually. And that influence, I think, is absolutely crucial and something that obviously Amanda can appreciate, of course. Yeah, this is crazy. And actually, Amanda, I want to ask you too, since you obviously have been following Brie Ellis, you love the hitters. We know that. Anyone who comes on the show for us on the D1 Softball podcast every week knows that. But Brie Ellis in particular, and just seeing Arkansas play in person at the SEC tournament, how was that?
Yeah, I was really impressed with Arkansas. They were so much fun to watch. They looked like they were playing their best softball. at the time that it matters the most, right? Like you want to be peaking at this time and feeling like everything is going the way that you want to. Obviously, the Oklahoma win. I mean, you just felt the shift that Oklahoma was going to win the game. But other than that, they were really fun to watch. It seemed like anybody could be the hero. They weren't just relying on Brie Ellis. Everyone looked really free. Robin Herron does such a great job of keeping hitters off balance and getting huge outs when she needs to. Her defense obviously has her back at all times. So that was actually, other than A&M's offense, Arkansas was my favorite team to watch this week at the SEC tournament.
Yeah, and that's saying a lot. Amanda loves softball. You know, the Mandy softball thing, it's a thing, but even without that, she loves it. And also, I want to know, Eric, you did have Chelsea Spencer going to Texas as well, as we see here, potentially. Like you
I
said.
did. Longtime assistant with Mike White at Oregon and at Texas. That would be a return for her. Cal, a 2 seed. It's going to be interesting. Cal, San Diego State. One of them is going to go as a 2, more than likely, to UCLA. The other one's going to have to travel. Which one does the committee decide on that? I'm going to be very interested to see. Indiana, I have them in as the 63rd team in, but next to the team, Shauna Stanton and company just get sliding in. Brown, who won the Ivy League, congrats to them, with Texas as the 6th seed. And then Arizona as the 11, lost in the Big 12 championship game to Texas Tech, which is interesting. I do have Arizona ahead of Texas Tech. They have a stronger schedule strength than Texas Tech. They have more top 50 wins than Texas Tech. But does the committee consider, would they be willing to jump at Texas Tech ahead of Arizona since they beat them 3 out of 4? I don't know. That could be an interesting another topic to watch as this unfolds. Arizona would be playing Weber State, won the Big Sky. Congrats to them. Grand Canyon, watch out.
Yep.
They can bust to Arizona. This is a really talented team here. Shannon Hayes has done an amazing job. Grand Canyon has been our number 1 ranked team in the D1Softball mid-major poll for a reason. It would not shock me, by the way, if they're a 2 seed when this comes out. I might be underselling them, but there are 3 here with Ole Miss, who has a history of going to Arizona there, going back to the Super Regionals a few years ago. Nancy Evans, former Arizona great, is the pitching coach this year at Ole Miss, so that could be a bit of a storyline right there, which, as you can tell, there's always storylines here.
Oh, yeah. First Ivy League championship for Brown and NCAA tournament bound since the 90s. Pretty special for them. All right, we're just a couple minutes out, so we'll speed through this last set right here.
Well, there's the Los Angeles Regional. Will UCLA be a top 8 seed? San Diego State's the 2, winning the Mountain West Championship. They've been there a lot. Arizona State can bust to LA. Megan Bartlett, I know it looks weird. UCLA and Arizona State. Arizona State's the Big 12. UCLA Big 10. Santa Clara, congrats to them winning the West Coast Conference for Gina Carbonado. Columbia, South Carolina. The 7, 8, 9, 10 are all very close. You could throw a coin toss. I have South Carolina at 10 with Liberty as the 2, North Carolina as the 3, Elon as the 4, and then I got Tennessee as the 8 with Virginia, Belmont, shout out to Maya Johnson and company, and then Miami of Ohio, the MAC champions there. I got Tennessee paired up with LSU, who's the 9 seed. They draw Jordy Ball in Nebraska. Ouch. Sorry. That's
Good
just
luck.
the way it played out. Southeastern Louisiana, dramatic win for them in the Southland. They're the 3, and Binghamton as the 4 seed. Once again, Tennessee probably paired up again with an SEC team in the Super Regionals. I'm sure Karen Weekly will be loving that.
Yeah, don't sleep on Virginia, that number 2 seed in the Knoxville Regional too. Having seen them play in person quite a bit, they're definitely on the rise as well. So that should be very interesting, to say the least. Liberty, you mentioned too, they've been in our rankings both overall as well as in the mid-major top poll for D1Softball. And then San Diego State, one of those of the 19 who took that conference tournament for the Mountain West after Nevada actually took the regular season. So we're about to start here, but Eric, who are your first 4 out before we jump in?
I have BYU as my first team out. I just the non-conference schedule strength 190 is not good there for Gordon Eakin. I think they have the wins, but not good enough. I have Nevada 66. If the committee decides to go just strictly RPI, Nevada can slip in, but they only have 2 wins in the top 50 against San Diego State. I have them at 66 there. And then I have, obviously, I threw out Iowa State. I think they should get consideration despite the bad RPI. They finished top 3 in the Big 12 in the regular season and the conference tournament. And then obviously I have Purdue, who had a nice run in the Big 10, also in the mix there among the first 4 out.
And we are underway, it looks like. So we all have this pulled up on our TVs and we'll be reacting live. With
Actually, I will not have the TV on. I'm going to defend on you. I'm going to defend on you, Jenna. I'm going to defend on you.
Victor is our guy. He's going to be leading us through this and telling us when each region is revealed.
Whoa. What's that supposed to be, sir? What's that supposed to be, Mr. Jet Lag, sir?
I better buckle up if he's going to run it. All right, let's go.
At least you're in. I could have said something about how late you were to our live show last night, but I'm going to let that slide.
In case you all want more of this every week, twice a week, actually, in the circle, the podcast by D1Softball presented by 643 as well. Feel free to tune in and you'll get plenty of that personality from those two.
Hey, Eric, do we want to share with the people who we're going to have lined up on the show? Or do you want to save that for later?
Let's save it for later. Let's save it for later. Or maybe we'll mention it if it happens to pop up during the selections. How about that?
I like it. Deal.
I like that. Oh man,
we're all waiting with bated breath to.
Well, I think that like it's when this starts, the first question's going to be who's number the 1 seed. And again, I think you could go either way here. And I'm curious where the three of you, what direction you would go. Do you go with Texas A&M, who is the number 1 RPI, has the best resume? All right, if you're going resume, they're probably going to get this nod at 1. Or do you go with a team that won the SEC regular season title, a team that has the most top 10 wins of anybody in the country? And oh, by the way, it's Oklahoma. They've done a few things very well. Who would you go with if you were the ones right now to pick to be the number 1 overall seed of three of you? So especially you two, since you, Amanda, you've seen both teams.
It's
repeat
hard.
Repeat it for me. I'm sorry, I was locked in.
Who would you pick? Who would you pick? OU or A&M? They'll be the 1 seed. If you had the choice, you saw them both live.
I think based just on trending and how they ended the season, I would choose Texas A&M. But gosh, it's so hard because OU's resume is so good too. Like I won't be mad either way. Like it's just
me neither, by the way. For the
record. Yeah. There's an argument both ways for sure.
Totally.
It is, but I'm going with Oklahoma. You have to reward them with top 10 wins. You have to reward them, Benny. When you win the regular season championship of the number 1 RPI conference in the sport, that has to carry some merit. So I'm going with Oklahoma, and we all know Sooner fans will take any slight against their national champions personally. So
well, ain't gonna be
don't
me.
take that personally, Sooner fans. Like I mean that with the most respect.
Yes.
I agree with Victor so much. Like I agree with you.
And let's not forget they won the Natty last year. They 4-peated as a 2 seed overall last year. So that's by no means saying.
And ironically enough, they beat the number 1 overall seed to win the 4th straight national championship. So hey,
exactly right.
Just saying.
Great points.
I'm intrigued. I'm also intrigued to see as we figure out what happens. We get ready to get this field of 64. Who's going to be that number 16 national seed with them? Because Eric have Virginia Tech, Oregon could slip in. You have Lombardi versus Gasso. They already had that last year. Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to answer that first big question. Who's that number 1 national seed? Come on, ESPN. It's Texas A&M. Texas A&M is the number 1 overall seed.
Got my knee.
Amanda and Eric, you nailed it.
Props. See, Amanda, you know what? You can do a little bracketology yourself there. No, look, they went with resume. I get it. They went resume. I would personally would have gone with Oklahoma, but I either way, you're fine. Now the question will be, is Oklahoma the 2? But now we got to see who else is at A&M.
They'll be taking on St. Francis, who won the Northeast Conference Championship earlier this morning. Reed Pocky's going to be working on a story on their remarkable journey later on this week on D1Softball.com. Marist, who won the MAG Championship. By the way, go to Marist Softball's Twitter/X account. If you're a wrestling fan, watch that video. You're going to fall out laughing when you see that. So Marist is the 3, and they're going to be taking on Liberty. An interesting, What? Yes, Eric, you heard me. You're not jet lag. Liberty is the 2 in College Station.
Some of them look as shocked as we are.
Yeah, because Eric, I believe you had Liberty as in the South Carolina regional, didn't you?
Yeah, they can bust there. They can bust to a bunch of places. Flying to A&M. Wow, that is baffling. By the way, Maris is a 3. We've had him at the mid-major rankings all year. Maris has been ranked. They're really good. I wonder if that helped them because, let's be honest, the committee probably, if they're smart, hopefully, we'll find out in the next hour if they're smart or not. Probably, if they're smart, then they're, consuming D1 content. Softball.
Well, no real surprise. That means Oklahoma will be the number 2 national seed. So we know A&M's the 1. Oklahoma's going to be the 2.
Yeah.
Who will be that first round matchup for the Sooners? Oh, Ashley Waters. Oh, if you were with us last year, ladies and gentlemen, we had Ashley Waters, and she found out she was going to Norman. To say she was unhappy would be an understatement. And if you saw that reaction video,
are you kidding me?
She was honest. You're right. She was very candid.
And have them in a full and upright position. And
Wait, Vic, all right,
and
Vic,
Omaha is in this regional. So it's Oklahoma versus Boston U. Omaha is in as the 3.
Huh.
I'm already shook this early in.
Vic, for the regular podcast,
Cal is going to be
going
Cal.
Well,
that early prediction that could be 2 in Q for Chelsea Spencer if she's not careful. But Medea Groff is the real deal.
All right, the bigger story there. Cal not going to UCLA.
Yeah.
That is not good. That is not good news if you're San Diego State. In theory, I don't know. Liberty's freaking going to A&M. I don't know where that came from. But that might suggest that San Diego State will be the team that goes to UCLA, but no reunions
they do a lot. And obviously it has to do with the geography of it all.
Well, apparently, Vic, we'll have to confirm this on the podcast. Apparently Boston to Norman is a bus trip, evidently, because they go there every year now, it seems like.
A traditional like any other. Texas and Boston going to Norman. Right. Well, Florida Gators, Amanda Lorenz, are the number 3 national seed.
Here we go. I nailed that. Hey, I nailed that. I did nail it.
You did. Crushed it.
I got you, Amanda. See? Got your team.
Well, now that Florida ain't going to play Boston, so which mid-major ace will have the Gators shaking in their boots? Well, this one might be tricky. Mercer. Now, Mercer won 5 straight elimination games in the SoCon to win the tournament title. They beat Georgia in Athens. They beat Georgia Tech. So,
and there's a storyline there. The head coach, Lindsey Fico, played for Tim Walton in 2006. Amanda, you know that very well, an alum. So there's a storyline right there.
And Georgia Tech is back in the tournament.
Hey, they looked good to start the ACC tournament. They came out guns blazing all around too. I mean, to run Rural Cal like they did, which is a very good hitting team.
Yeah.
They look good. They look good.
Eileen Morales, as a player in 2008, played in Gainesville, and then a couple of years ago, she was in Gainesville. This means, by the way, FAU should be the 2 here. UCF is not in Gainesville.
They are.
Wow.
And they are.
Oh, are we going? Oh God, are we going to send UCF back to Tallahassee? God. Oh,
Eric, no cursing. Say
you
that
wanted to go to Gainesville?
I mean, I was hoping you and I could hang out in Gainesville at, at Stacey Nelson Plaza,
True. That's fair.
See your buddy Fran.
By the way, we will get thoughts from FAU head coach Jordan Clark about her matchup.
In all seriousness, congratulations. They get the 2 seed there. Well deserved there. That was an interesting plot line. So the committee decided no, UCF and FAU, I would assume, are both 2 seeds. So, hey, credit to the committee on that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and if you heard that from Victor right there, he just officially announced our first guest that we will be having.
Jordan Clark, for FAU head coach, back-to-back AAC coaching staff of the year, will be joining us towards the bottom of our show. And Arkansas is the number 4 national seed. Woo Pig Suey with the National Player of the Year.
That's over FSU. Over FSU. I mean, I'm surprised. I don't agree with that. Now, I don't have a big problem with that. That seems to me like the committee got caught up in the moment with Arkansas. I know they've been playing well, but FSU to me has the better resume. More importantly, Arkansas's non-conference schedule is not very good. By the way, so that's interesting. Arkansas a 4 with a weak schedule. Oklahoma 2. That might be good news for Oregon if you're an Oregon.
Might be good news for Oregon. By the way, Arkansas will be taking on the Billikens, winning the Atlantic 10 championship in that opening round.
Had that.
Indiana is in, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Another Big Ten tournament run for Sean Stanton has the Hoosiers back in the tournament.
Should be Oak State here. This should be Oak State if they, in theory, with the bus theory.
Yep. By the way, that'll be a 4 p.m. game. 4 p.m. game, ESPN 2 in Fayetteville. And it is Oklahoma State.
Yeah. There you go. Whoo! Sign me up. Watch out. You want to talk about upset potential. I had Arkansas the preseason to go to the World Series, but they draw an Oklahoma State team that I think is underachieved. That is a dangerous 2 seed for Arkansas.
And we've seen Oklahoma State in a similar situation a couple of years ago where they were a national seed, but they weren't as high as they thought they were. They found a way into Oklahoma City. Yeah. Kenny Gajewski was emotional when his team clinched that bid to Oklahoma City. If they wanted to, here's the thing with Arkansas. Can they get over that hump of getting out of regionals?
Right. Can they get KC?
All right, this next team's got to be FSU. I mean, they are the ACC regular season champions. It's got to be them in the 5s.
Real quick, Amanda, does this bring back the memories from Selection Sunday? I'm just watching all the reactions, right? It's so fun. And I know you and I, but you more recently know what that feels like.
It's so fun, but so nerve-wracking. Like, I remember just being so nervous all day. You were right, Eric.
Florida State. Is Florida State, by the way, who was the number 5 national seed. This likely now we're going to find out, Eric. It feels like UCF Mississippi State's going to be the 2-3 matchup. The question is, who's going to be that?
No, you got South Florida.
Oh, you're right. So one of those teams is flying.
Yes.
One of those teams is flying.
Yes.
Robin Morris will be the 4 seed.
Horizon League.
Yep, won the league there. Congrats.
Oh, the belt. Did you guys see the belt?
The championship, as wrestling fans, Eric and myself, we are big fans of the championship belts. By the way, go to Inner Circle YouTube channel. Eric Lopez's interview with Najee Kennedy with that lovely Big 12 WWE championship belt. And USF is going to be a 3 seed.
Yep. So the question now is it going to what?
Oh, no. I just thought of this.
Yeah.
They won it. They would.
It's going to be either UCF, USF, which would renew the rivalry, or it's going to be Mississippi State.
None of the above. It is Auburn. Auburn going back to Tallahassee.
Eric's face.
Ladies and gentlemen, that look right there is why we love doing these selection shows live and giving you instant reactions.
What?
The look on Eric's face is just like... Someone clip that reaction from Eric and tweet at No Context College Softball. We would greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. By the way, congratulations to Chris and Kay Malvo. First year at Auburn. They had a great start in Clearwater, best start in program history. Struggled a little bit in the SEC, but found their footing at the right time and they make them
second year in a row. Auburn is sent there, by the way. Second year in a row, they're sent to Tallahassee.
One of only 3 undefeated teams at the Clearwater Invite, and one of the other ones was Florida State. Strong starts from them.
Interesting. So Auburn, USF.
I'm shocked. Neither Mississippi State or UCF busing there.
Wow.
UCF is in the field, right? They're going to be in this field. Do I have to get nervous now?
Eric, calm down. Eric,
we do have your reaction from last year. So,
by the way, Texas is the number 6 national team.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep, had Texas. That's a good choice there.
Texas is the number 6 national seed. This is fascinating. Who gets sent to Austin? Eastern Illinois. So there will be no reunion of the Eastern Illinois and Tara Archibald, who was at Texas Tech. So EIU is the 4 seed in Austin. Michigan is the number 3. Is that right? Did they have Michigan?
Okay.
Yeah, Michigan, no, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Gritty. All right.
Which tells you that Michigan likely had to win the Big Ten tournament to get in. If you got
Yeah,
them
the
at the
RPI is in the 40s. No, I mean, this is proper seeding.
Eric,
Well,
you ready for this?
Eric.
Well, you don't have to worry about UCF anymore. Folks, if for nothing else, watch the replay of our show to get Eric's reactions to Auburn being sent to Tallahassee and UCF going to Austin, Texas. And Eric, you talked to me about getting Andrew Haynes on the show. Maybe you have time to book a flight to Austin. You could be in the booth of Andrew Haynes. I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen,
I don't think he froze. Yeah, he's just
that is not a glitch. He is not having technical difficulties. Eric Lopez was literally frozen, speechless. We know we are in the end times when we have a reaction from Eric Lopez and he has no comment. Teresa, speechless. Yes, that is Eric Lopez. Ladies and gentlemen,
that is right. You
is
are
the
correct.
number 7 national seed.
These celebrations.
They're holding the dogs back, like, hold me back.
Oh, by the way, before I forget, you guys mentioned WWE. We've talked about how I tried out to be a wrestler, right?
Wait, what?
Have been to the Performance Center twice in Orlando.
We're gonna table that. We're gonna save that conversation for later. We got Miami of Ohio. By the way, congratulations to Mandy Cardinal Gold Colgate. First year taking over for Corinne Kumar. She gets them in, and North Carolina is in the tournament.
Ooh.
Bravo!
Okay.
Bravo!
Kenna Ray Dark looked great and made the All ACC tournament team as well because she threw nearly 13 innings.
Well, Kenna Ray Dark is going to have her work cut out, Jenna, because she's taking on the number 1 home run hitters in the nation in Ohio State. By the way, this could mean if Miami of Ohio and Ohio State lose, you could have Corinne Kumar facing her former team to stay alive in the NCAA tournament.
See, they love it. They love the drama.
They love the drama. Mr. Lopez, your thoughts, or are you still stunned about UCF going to Austin?
This bracket's drunk. So a couple of things here I'm picking up here. UCF Michigan. I know I cannot believe they're in Austin, Texas. I just hung out with Kat Oster. Was that a sign? Was that an omen?
Why? Yeah, you manifested it.
First time ever UCF blown out of state. Maybe that's the power of the Power Four. They're playing Michigan. That's a
drunk.
UCF Michigan.
Guys, I'm so shocked at this one.
What? South Carolina.
Wow.
They really did 7 of the top 8 seeds from the SEC.
That was one of our questions answered.
Well, Jenna and Amanda, I hope you guys enjoy the SEC tournament in Oklahoma City in a few weeks. There you go.
A lot of people in our chat were saying they should have moved the SEC tournament to Oklahoma City. Well, if you play your cards right, you're gonna have the SEC tournament in Oklahoma City in a few weeks.
Well, that's the thing. They didn't get their championship game in because they're waiting for Oklahoma City. Apparently.
Thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, real quick storyline. I just noticed Karen Kumar is in the same region as Miami of Ohio, their former team.
Eric, we covered that, guy.
Eric, you can tell Eric is not on delay. He is still shocked that he's doing Austin.
Yeah, go ahead. South Carolina.
By the way, North Florida. And by the way, we're going to have North Florida head coach Jeff Conrad on Monday's episode of In the Circle, and he's going to be taking on the Virginia Cavaliers and their home run queen, Jade Hilton. All I'm going to say is, South Carolina, you better be on your P's and Q's.
Yeah.
You better be on your P's and Q's because North Florida has a 2-headed monster in Allison Benning and Barry. Barry was the one who pitched the final 2 innings to get the Ospreys that championship win over Eastern Kentucky. They're not just Allison Benning led in the circle. Be careful, South Carolina. Be careful.
Okay. Virginia, too, has broken multiple program records offensively this year. First time they've ever gone back-to-back in an NCAA tournament. And I think, this is one of the stronger regionals. In my opinion.
Right now I am in shock over. This might be the most shocking bracket in my entire 10+ years of covering this. Who was the 4 in South Carolina? I missed that. Who was the
Elon? It
Thank
is South Carolina versus Elon, and then the 2-3 is Virginia as the 2, North Florida as the 3.
Yeah.
Okay, the top 8, Victor. Can we go through them again as a recap?
So the top 8, it is Texas A&M, Oklahoma as the 2, Florida, Arkansas, Florida State, Texas, Tennessee, and South Carolina. So yes, 7 of the top 8. And we talked about this for those of you who were with us in our Inner Circle live show last night. People, did we think they would put 7 of the top 8 seeds from the SEC? The answer is yes. Wendy Long says we haven't seen Texas Tech or Arizona. We kind of figured that they were going to be in that like 11 to 14 range. So they're going to be showing up later on. That's going to be everyone take a breath. Everyone take a breath. Eric, take a couple breaths. Get some food in your system.
And for anyone new here, Eric has done broadcasting for UCF softball, among other sports, for years and years and years. So the direct tie there, you all know Amanda Lorenz as the Florida alum, 4-time All-American. Amanda, I can say it. I know you don't always say it, but I can say it, as well as
and last season's champion and Athletes Unlimited. Oh, by the way.
That is correct. And a new.
By the way, AUSL starts the day after the Women's College World Series ends June 7th.
Yeah, it does.
AUSL softball.
Sure does. And you know what?
Thanks for that plug, Victor.
Perfect timing for a little congratulations to
Yeah.
She's an AUSL Volt, picked early on in the draft, the regular draft before the most recent college draft, but then also the Team USA roster. Once again, she's the GOAT, Amanda Lorenz.
Thanks, guys. So sweet.
Had to.
Thanks.
See, I
set up so perfectly for you, Jenna, to do that.
Had to do it. Got to.
Oh, I'm nervous.
Right?
Man.
The top 8.
Okay. All right, so I got a couple
South
thoughts
Carolina
here.
at 8. I'm surprised.
Well, I will say this in the committee: Tennessee, South Carolina. I'm assuming UCLA, LSU. They were all. It was tight. You could. I wrote about it.
You said that up front. Yeah,
I did say that was close. South Carolina had some the arguments there in their favor. There. One thing I'm noticing here, and who knows, maybe I'm way off here. If you are a Virginia Tech fan, this is not a good start. No. Liberty's off the board. That was a team that could bust to Virginia Tech. Ohio State is off the board. They could bust to Virginia Tech. They're off the board too. This is not a good sign for Virginia Tech hosting. That's not good. That might be good news for Oregon. But then again, UCLA is not in the top 8. I am surprised. But clearly the Bruins finish here, Jenna, cost them possibly the top 8 here, losing the Northwestern series and then the Big Ten title game.
Yeah, to not take the regular season or the tournament in the Big Ten, I think, which they were expected to take at least one, right, this year, if not both, potentially. It was definitely a consideration. Although that's what's interesting too, is we still have more to go, of course, but the considerations each year by the committee, like we try to decipher those, of course. But seems like we're looking at conference tournaments and the results of those. So recent results for some, but then body of work maybe a little bit more emphasized in other situations. I'm curious to see how the rest of it looks.
I would agree. I still don't get the Liberty to A, and that's wow. This
by the way, I am in the chat, so I'm asking y'all, hey, y'all good in the chat? Because woo!
Ooh, I'm seeing some people think Virginia Tech or Duke goes.
All right, here we go. We're gonna find out who will be potentially being paired with South Carolina, and it's UCLA. We just talked about the Bruins. UCLA is the number 9 national seed. So if the team will serve,
I'll tell you what though, they might be disappointed they're a top 8 seed. I actually like this pairing for UCLA a lot.
It'll be UC Santa Barbara.
Makes sense.
Hey, Joe Evans.
Should we reveal now?
What about maybe you two decide?
I think so. So our other guests that we're going to have on, we now know will be going to the Los Angeles Regional because head coach of Santa Barbara, Joe Evans, will be joining us as well to talk about her team and for regional. So we're excited about that. Ooh.
San Diego State is the 3. And Eric, I think you nailed this one. San Diego State versus Arizona State is your 3 versus 2.
It's got to be, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there it is. Jenna, you were wondering. There's your first Pac-12 reuniting Arizona State UCLA.
So in that regional alone, there are 14 national championships historically. I believe the 12 for UCLA and the 2 for Arizona State.
That leads me to believe that LSU's got to be next here at 10, right? And that's got to be
UC's and the state schools. I like it. San Diego State always goes to LA, man. But they did. Remember, they got out of that regional and they went to Supers a couple years ago.
LSU.
Ooh.
Which means, guess what, Vic? Tennessee in a super regional SEC once again. By the way, you know what's bizarre? I actually nailed this, but the wrong seats. I actually had Tennessee LSU as an 8-9, and I had South Carolina UCLA.
UCLA 7-10.
Yeah.
And LSU's going to deal with Southeastern Louisiana. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, the
Southeastern Louisiana. They got the AEW championship belt over there.
I'm not sure I would go with that belt to make an argument there.
Oh, I got it. Hey, that's the most relevant that title.
Wait, are they the 4?
Hey, Eric, that's the most relevant that title has been in the last year and a half.
Are they the 4? Interesting.
UConn.
We had this question earlier in the chat. We had this question: where do we think UConn's going to go?
You're going to Baton
Rouge. I wonder if Kim Mulkey will invite Gino Auriemma to come to the regionals there.
Zing.
Hey, listen, congrats to Laura Valentino. UConn can hit. That's a pretty good ball club here.
Oh,
well. All right. Whew. Ouch. Nebraska. I did hit that.
You do not want.
That is
player and pitcher of the year in the Big Ten and Jordy Ball.
You want nothing to do with Jordy Ball.
Oof.
Tough regional for Beth and Tarina. They're going to have to get their pitching situated. Yeah, that's wow. Jordy Ball back in the postseason. That'll be interesting there. Nebraska and LSU.
They were the last undefeated team standing at one point, right? Earlier in the season this year. That's right.
Yeah, I think so.
Sydney Berzon's got to pitch really bad. Well, she's been scuffling a little bit recently for LSU. Could have a Berzon-Jordy Ball matchup. Hello.
I'll take it.
Oh, I got to see LSU in person last year at the Stanford Super Regional too.
So LSU has seen Nyjah Kennedy and Jordy Ball in their last 2 postseason.
Yep.
Oh,
Clemson.
Here we are.
Number 11 national seed.
Wow.
Yeah. Put that trophy in the center. I like it.
Well, clearly the committee watched the college football playoff because they paired Clemson and Texas like they did in football. So there you go.
Yeah. The potential super. Yeah.
Well, Clemson's going to have themselves a tough one. They got USC Upstate, the Big South champions, Chris Hawkins and his crew. I saw them earlier in the season where they're kind of getting their footing on them underneath themselves. And needless to say that the offense has found its groove, winning another Big South title. Second state championship. Northwestern is in.
They're in.
I hit that. That was my team that I picked for 64. That is probably not good news. That's not good news for BYU and Nevada, unfortunately, which bums me out because I'm a big Victoria Haywood fan. And those players.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I think we all agree, especially Amanda.
Yeah. And of course, it's a tradition. You cannot have Northwestern be in the NCAA tournament without being paired with Kentucky, which will be their 2-3 matchup.
Kentucky got a 2? What?
Yeah.
Good God.
I want to look at the audio after this to see how many octaves that Eric has.
Did the committee confuse this with Mark Pope in basketball? Because it couldn't be the softball. That's the 2 seed.
No, it is. All I gotta say,
you have an ACC, a Big Ten, and an SEC in addition to obviously USC Upstate. That's interesting. All in the same regional.
Well, yeah. Here we go. Oh, Coach ain't gonna be happy. Texas headed to 12. Eric, we said last night a team for the state of Florida will have to deal with Niger, and it's the team in the state capital if they get that far. Texas Tech, the number 12 national seed. Congratulations, Jerry Glasgow. Jenna, I have a feeling you're going to be seeing your alma mater in a few minutes. They're going to be taking on Brown. You referenced Brown, Jenna. First Ivy League championship since 1994.
It's huge.
It's been
By the way,
long.
congrats to Texas
That's
Tech. That's
crazy.
going to be an electric atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
As a 12
They're
seed. By the way,
ready.
interesting. I just noticed Texas Tech mentioned before Arizona, so they jumped Arizona, which, by the way,
Which, like,
I'm
in
good
theory,
with.
makes sense.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm good.
that's
I
good.
didn't think that. I'm glad they're doing that. I got it wrong. I'll tip my cap to the committee on that one. They got it right on that. I'm glad they got. I didn't think they would do it. They did it, so I'll give them credit for that.
Well, and now we got Washington, who I believe is slotted as a 3 versus Mississippi State.
Oh. Oh.
No. Wow.
We were wondering, well, Eric, we were wondering if we didn't see Mississippi State and Tallahassee where they would be sent to. We have our answer.
And Washington's got that familiarity with Niger as well, although a largely new roster.
And Alana Johnson. Alana Johnson is on the Texas Tech roster, Jenna. Oh, my. So we don't get the Niger Stanford reunion. We just get the Alana Johnson Washington.
Yes.
So the committee likes drama. It's drunk, apparently. The bracket's drunk, but not that.
Per Eric Lopez and all the people in the chat feel that the bracket is drunk. And yeah. Woo! Four more seats to go.
So Arizona's dropped here, too. By
the 13 to a 13 national seed.
Oh, my God. They paired him up with Arkansas again. Arizona knocked Arkansas out last year in the regionals. They've knocked them out in the supers. This has been the thorn of Arkansas.
The bane of their existence. So Arkansas has to likely go through their 2 biggest foes out of conference in Oklahoma State and Arizona if they want to break through that glass ceiling called the women's college.
What better way to do it? I mean, Amanda, for your perspective, if you have to face people who have been like that pebble in your shoe, like go straight through it, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of anxiety about that. Like I know that for Florida with Georgia, I feel like for some reason in a super regional, it's just Georgia always gets the better half of that.
Yeah,
so I feel it.
Grand Canyon is weird. By the way, Arizona will be taking on Arizona will be taking on Santa Clara, and Grand Canyon, as we anticipated, will take on Ole Miss. So that storyline with Arizona, Ole Miss, going back to the Terry Mowat McKinney days, continues.
Right.
And that's going to be a 2-3 matchup.
It's weird. I'm getting a lot of these pairings right. The seedings.
You're getting the seed. You're getting the pairings right. The seeding is just a little wacky.
I don't know how you're going to score that, Vic, when you evaluate this on the podcast. This is really
did the team? Hey, you're like John Cena. Did you get the W or did you get the L?
But I can see him. He's not John Cena. I can see him.
Very well played.
Just don't hit him with the belt, Jenna.
By the way, I've noticed. So Duke has not been called yet.
They have
Duke has not been called. Virginia Tech has not been called. Alabama has not been called. Oregon has not been called. Correct. So 2 of those schools are going to be 2 seeds going to those other 2 schools. My prediction will be Virginia Tech and Oregon. And possibly Duke.
Oh, right. There.
There's Duke. Right on cue.
You were right, Eric, about that matchup.
We get Duke paired with Florida. They played earlier this year. And Amanda, help me out here. Isn't Marissa Young's daughter on the Florida roster?
Yes.
They love that drama.
Layla.
Wow.
Her other daughter's going to UCLA too.
Oh, I love this matchup. You got 2 African-American head coaches battling in the NCAA tournament. Marissa Young with Duke, Tori Tyson at Howard. Howard winning the MEAC tournament title for the 2nd time in 4 years. Congratulations. I am looking forward to seeing that matchup because those 2 lift each other up so much online. Now they get to battle in the postseason. That is going to be beautiful.
Regular season for Howard, too, in addition to tournament, and then Tori Tyson, Coach of the Year as well.
Yes.
Clearly the committee has read my work in recent weeks because I had that most of the year. So
Coastal Carolina. The Chanticleers.
I had Coastal in there, yeah.
How about this run? the two teams that played in the first round games of the Sun Belt, them and James Madison, get to be in the championship game.
This should be Georgia, the two here.
Yes, it is Georgia.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
It is Georgia.
I love when Eric just manifests like that. You know?
All right.
We're
down to two. We have Virginia Tech, we have Alabama, we have Oregon. I think, Eric, what you said is going to come true. I think Alabama.
I got to tell you something. Yeah, I mean, I picked Virginia Tech, but I'm looking at this. This is not good news for Virginia Tech. This is not good news for. I think Oregon might get to host here.
We'll see.
Because all the teams that could bust to Virginia Tech are gone. Unless they're flying people. But we'll see.
Now Nevada hasn't been called yet. Well, as we expected, Texas and Alabama hosting a regional.
Well, Alabama.
By the way, Alabama, your reward is going to Norman to take on the Sooners. Have fun. Assuming you get on the regional, of course. So Alabama will host once again, keeping their streak alive of never not traveling for regionals. They will take on the SWAC champion Jackson State Tigers. Now,
I nailed that. Hey, I nailed that.
By the way, Jackson State won their conference championship on a review call for a runner leaving early. That's how they got the final out to win their conference championship. That's how the final automatic bid got punched. Ooh.
That was the SWAC.
Yeah, that's the SWAC. By the way, Belmont, the Missouri Valley champions. Hey, Maya Johnson. Hey, Alabama, you better have your house in order. Maya Johnson is the truth now. Be careful.
Jenna.
Yes.
Stanford hasn't been mentioned yet.
Correct.
So you're either going.
Noticing.
Well, Stanford's going to Eugene because Virginia Tech is the two going to Bama.
Wow.
Oh, their reaction. You
saw how quick ESPN cut that?
Yeah. I saw a couple of golf claps in the back, and that was about it.
And ESPN's like, yeah, we're good here.
That wasn't as dramatic, though, as when Washington got that 16 seed.
And they walked out
a few years ago. Yeah, that was next level.
Wow.
So that all but means
so
Oregon.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oregon will have to host. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, it's going to be Oregon-Stanford pairing here, Jenna.
Okay, Alabama. I didn't. If Virginia Tech wasn't going to host, you do not want them in your regional. So
here's what I don't like. These two teams already played this year at Alabama.
They split.
And I don't think they can bust there. So this is a very expensive bracket here. What are we doing here? Like,
and Oregon is a number 16 national seed.
No. Once with Virginia Tech out, wow. I guess, folks, you can play 300 quad 4 games and host apparently nowadays.
Yep.
Oregon gets the national seed.
Yep. We kind of figured out once we saw Virginia Tech show up, we knew that was going to be happening. So they'll be taking on.
Yeah.
So Stanford's going to be in this. Jessica Allister returns
to
Eugene.
They'd have to. This is it.
Oregon, Stanford's the pairing. There's the Pac-12.
Wow.
Pac-12.
We talked about it. They're going to have those early now. Those former conference foes.
I love this draw for Stanford.
Well, and Binghamton, who won the American East Championship.
What?
Yeah, Binghamton.
They're a 3?
Yeah.
Again, this is a team that was ranked in our D1 mid-major poll all year, but most of the year. Binghamton recently. That's interesting. Good for them, although a 3. Wow.
I love this comment for us. Oregon has a lot of uniforms, so clearly they deserve to host.
There
it is.
Charles Todd Sullivan for president. Bravo, sir. You have the tweet of the night so far.
So wait, it's Binghamton and who else?
And Stanford.
No, who's the 4?
Weber State.
Weber State.
Weber State winning the Big Sky over Ohio State, over Idaho State.
Cardinal going to Eugene. So last year in the series in Pac-12 play in that final Pac-12 season, Stanford took it 2-1. That ended the regular season right before the Pac-12 tournament last year. That last game between them, Oregon won 1-0 last year. Last time they met.
Jenna, this also tells me, and listen, our own Justin McLeod is going to talk to Kurt McGuffin. He's going to talk to some of the media press here afterwards. I'm wondering, could Stanford had hosted if they had their play? Because based on this would suggest to me that Stanford was 17 and Virginia Tech was 18, unless they just wanted to go with geography on this. And I'm going to have to do some math there. I don't know. I don't think Virginia Tech can bust to Bama. I think that's a flight. That's interesting. Stanford was right in the mix. Clearly, the committee liked Stanford, Jenna.
Yeah.
The heck is that?
As a reminder, too, because we got lots of questions leading up to, obviously, this as to whether or not Stanford could host in general, logistically speaking, because they've been in the football stadium all season long at Stanford Stadium. They could not because of a logistical conflict anyway. They could have, in theory, still been a national seed, but they could not have hosted at home regardless because they had event conflicts pre-planned. Coldplay concert at the end of the month, as well as graduation right after that they had to prep the football stadium for and get rid of that temporary softball field. So we knew they'd be on the road regardless. We just didn't know if they'd be a national seed or not and where they would go. And now we know.
Yep.
Well, I can tell you this for the second time in the last 4 years, I nailed all 64 teams.
Let's go! Let's go!
So I nailed all 64. I missed Oregon Tech. That's my blemish from the hosting standpoint. Now, obviously, my seating is a little whack, but I would argue a lot of this stuff is whack. But yeah, I did nail all 64.
Or drunk, as you said earlier in the show.
I'll say this.
This is a moment for you to bat flip if you could. Like you getting all 64 teams, that's a bat flip moment. There it is.
How about that? Yes.
Yeah, nailed all 64. Obviously, Morgan brings it up. No Purdue, no BYU, no Nevada. Look, I think Northwestern got in with that UCLA series win. That was huge. That was the moment for them. They also have the win over Duke and Mississippi State. So they are 8 Big Ten teams in the tournament. Are you kidding me?
You consider that Washington, Oregon, and UCLA, of course, add to that, right, compared to past years. That's still 5 teams, though. From the historical.
Well, and that's why I don't agree with UCLA not being a top 8 seed. I just that part. But I'll say this: I do like a lot some of the other stuff the committee has done. Like I like Texas Tech being ahead of Arizona. I'm really curious to hear why Oregon hosted. I wonder if the Big Ten regular season title was the difference. Maybe the top 10 wins, or and again now if you're Virginia Tech, you got to be thinking about that semifinal game, Jenna, that you were at.
Yeah,
with the rain. Did that cost them a hosting spot?
Did it? And then Clemson goes on to win it, right? So interesting.
Right.
But in the meantime, we do have our first guest of the evening who we will welcome in. Thank you for joining us. So I'll let Eric and Victor take it from here.
All right. We're joined by FAU head coach Jordan Clark, back in the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row. Coach, congratulations. You're back to Gainesville. Your initial reaction on being back in Gainesville?
Well, first and foremost, I'm really excited to be back in. As a mid-major who didn't win your conference tournament, to be an at-large bid 2 years in a row is so special, and it's something that we don't take for granted. So I really like the draw. I like, the matchups within the regional. And I was shocked at some, where some teams got sent as far as our in-state opponents. So a little shocked, but also excited for the opportunity.
Congrats too, by the way. From what I understand, you're going to be the 2 seed there, high seed there. You earned that seed, so clearly the committee respected your team there from that standpoint. There. Yeah. Let me ask you about this. You obviously went last year there. What do you take as a head coach from that experience last year that you're going to apply this year with this group this year?
Yeah, I mean, last year I think we were just excited to be there, right? And there's a difference when it's your first time going and versus going and competing. And so this year it's like, hey, okay, you're not as nervous for being on an SEC field at Florida. Some of our in-state kids, like that's their dream is to play for the Gators someday. So to get that nervous energy out of the way last year and going into this year that anything can happen, and we've beaten some really good opponents this year. And so hopefully that, we can fire on all cylinders and just give ourselves a chance. And that's what we kind of say is we're going to go one game at a time. And we talked a little bit about what team are we going to be this year? Like last year, our offense didn't show up in regionals. And this year, it's like, how are we going to have a little bit different showing? How are we going to be a little bit more competitive and really execute the little wins?
Coach, thing I'm really looking forward to seeing is Autumn Courtney. We know her up close and in person. We were excited when we learned that she was going to your program. How she gets to have a chance to perform on this stage. Your pitching staff, how impressive you've been with the staff, and how confident are you in them getting ready to take on a Georgia Tech team who has had moments where they can hit the ball with the best of them?
Yeah, well, that's why Autumn Courtney came to us, right? Like, she's always been good. We've given her a couple more tools in the toolbox, but Autumn is Autumn, and she came here for this moment, was to play on this stage, to play in postseason, and for the whole world to see her, and to see what she's about. And so for her, she's our horse, she's our girl. But like, when Jaden Martinez is on, when Ainsley Lambert gets to come in and close a game, you've got a former conference pitcher of the year in Gabby Sacco. Like, when we're firing on all cylinders, this team is really hard to beat. And so we've seen glimpses of it all season long in different matchups, different games. And so I'm excited to put it all together. If Autumn pitches well, you've got Jaden for a game too. You've got a Gabby for, to come in and help. And so we have 4 legit arms, which most teams in this tournament are riding on 2 arms. So to have depth is really important.
And you got one of the best defenses in the country. That's become now really vintage part of your teams. There's defense.
Yeah.
Talk about that defense, because that's going to be imperative in postseason in a regional like this.
Yeah, I haven't looked since before conference tournament, but we were number 1 in the country for a little bit. And so that's something that I take pride on, is how can you be great at the little details, and to see our girls. And what people don't realize is we only have 2 starters back from last season. Like, yes, it is a successful team from last year, but it's 2 starters on the entire field. And so to have the number 1 defense is really cool. It's led by Kylie Chanel at shortstop. You've got one of the best first basemen in the country with Bella Semino at first base. And Jessiana Moore just won Defensive Player of the Year for the American. Florida's going to put the ball in play. Georgia Tech's going to put the ball in play. And Mercer's coming off a hot streak of winning their tournament. So, we're expecting teams to hit the ball hard, and it's our job to help our pitchers out.
Coach, I think the biggest thing is that your conference has really given you an opportunity, along with your non-conference, to being in a situation. How much has the growth of the American as a conference really gotten you prepared for this tournament run, especially when we have North Texas and USF playing for the championship, and you having a chance to play them very tough in your series this year?
Yeah, I mean, coming from year 1 being in Conference USA to moving into the American the last 2 years, it's that conference that's knocking on the door with all the Power 4 teams. And so, every weekend is really hard. It's a hard 3-game series. You don't just walk into one going, this is 3 automatic wins. You look at an ECU led the conference in home runs. It's one of those things that we know that we are prepared. We know this schedule that we have played this season has challenged us. We've handled some adversity, some speed bumps along the way, but, North Texas and USF are 2 arguably teams that could have or should have been in the tournament at different points in the season, right? And so, to have those really tough games and some rivalries in there, it leads you up for a conference, for a regional, to get you ready.
To back you up, the American, the number 5 toughest conference in college softball, 5th rated conference.
There you go. I'll take it.
With 2 bids there. And I want to talk about the state of Florida. I'm still I'm not going to lie to you, Coach. I'm still kind of reacting here. I'm stunned that UCF is being shipped out for the first time in program history. I feel like 5-10 years ago that UCF FAU would get paired up, but I think this is a sign of the respect that your program is getting, because the committee felt, no, let's not do that, because UCF and FAU are both 2 seeds in a year where you got South Florida as strong as going to Tallahassee, North Florida. Congrats to Jeff Conrad winning the first term. Talk about this state of Florida. It gets getting stronger and deeper every year. To me, is now one of the best states when it comes to softball.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make recruiting any easier, right? Like, I was hoping, you got your Florida State, your UCF that makes it in, and it makes recruiting, and everybody want to be an owl that doesn't go there. But so shout out to all those guys that have made it. It makes, the state of Florida a destination spot that our recruits want to stay in the state. But I was shocked. Like, I was expecting to look on the board and see a North Florida, a UCF, and an FAU, and a Florida all in the same regional. And I'm trying to grasp, like, okay, this is going to be really tough. Or going to see like, okay, in North Florida, USF go to Florida State, and us and a UCF go to Gainesville. Like I kind of in my mind had prepared that we were going to play somebody in state for that first game. And so I'm shocked. I'm shocked. We kind of been talking about it with the girls of like, hey, if you get in, this is what we could potentially see. And they all kind of looked at me like you were wrong. And I'm like, yeah, maybe so. But I'm just happy that, we all got opportunities to play in the big dance. And that's what these kids dream of when they commit to play.
I give you full permission. Just throw me under the bus. Blame me. I gave you bad information. I'm shocked. I mean, although I did say Georgia Tech could be a consolation, but that was back up there. But that is it. But this is a great night for the state of Florida with North Florida, UCF. So I just want to mention that. But you also, one of the reasons you're where you're at is your freshmen. And I remember we talked before the season about your offense being a little young in certain players. Boy, you've got some talented freshmen that have stepped up this year. Talk about those because a lot of new eyeballs are going to be watching your team this week. Tell us a little bit about the young freshman class you've got here.
Yeah, so this freshman class, I mean, it's our first full class that, we committed as a staff 3 years ago when we started this crazy thing. And you've got Bella Ferran, who is arguably one of the best 9-hole hitters in the country. You look at her stats and you're like, this kid's batting over 400. Why is she not in the 1 or 2 spot? Like, what's wrong with you? Do you know how to make a lineup? And so her being in the 9 spot gives us the opportunity to set the top of the lineup up. She's going to play a really good left field. She's quick. She's fast. She's a slapper. By trade. You've got a Destiny Johns who is coming to the second base position and plays it like she has played that position for 4 years. She was a recruited shortstop, had never played second base before, and she has been phenomenal. She has over 40-something RBIs on the season, bats anywhere in the 3, 4, 5 spots. And the sad part is I've got, 6 other freshmen sitting on the bench that could arguably be playing right now at other schools. And so I say that because I take pride that we have some really good athletes on this team and girls that are just knocking on the door to get that opportunity. But those two have definitely pushed some boundaries and have made a name for themselves.
Now, you're coming off playing in the American Conference Tournament in Tampa. I know it didn't go the way you would have liked, but you didn't have to get on a plane. You bust. Now you get to bust back versus last year. And I'm not making excuses for you, but you had to go to Wichita for the conference tournament. And I felt like it may have affected you the following week because that's not an easy trip to do. So talk about the fact that your team has not had to get on a plane here. You should be pretty fresh coming into this regional.
Well, and last year, like we've talked a lot about it as a staff, as a team, last year you were fighting for your life. You are hoping and praying that your name gets called on selection show. So there's all that emotion going into the conference tournament last year. It's like, we got to have a good showing in order to get in. And we didn't have a great showing. So then you're going into selection show and it's just all the nervous energy of like, is my career over? We had 11 seniors. Like, is my career over? I'm fighting for my life. This is it once I get to regionals. And when you play like you're holding on to something, it's that much harder. And so this year, we have 4 seniors and they've all kind of come to peace with what's next in life. And so for them, they're excited versus dreading for this to be over. And so I say that because they're celebrating every little milestone that we've made now. And so the girls are just in so much more of a relaxed place. They know they belong. They beat some really good teams. And it's not like we're the little kids that are going to show up at a regional just to get the t-shirt. Like, we are actually excited to compete. And so that's the biggest difference is, we're going to be fresh. We didn't love how the tournament ended this past weekend. And so I told them, I said, listen, if your name gets called, you're going to be excited. And if it doesn't, you're going to get to work. And if your name is called, like, we're going to get to work this week and we're going to figure out where did we go wrong in the conference tournament and how do we put up a little bit better showing. And so they're excited. They are so excited. And this group is just fun. And I'm beyond blessed to be able to coach them.
How did you compare this selection Sunday versus last? Because I know last year was very nerve-wracking. You were on the bubble. You didn't know what could happen. This year, you felt confident. You had the resume. There was like no doubt, but there's always a slight doubt until you see your name called. So describe the room, and then so you saw your team name called once again.
It was a lot lighter. I will tell you that. And I told the girls, I was like, if you don't get in, like, it's a mystery. Like, it's a mystery to us. It's a mystery to every bracket that I've seen. And so the chances are really good. However, you're putting your fate in somebody else's hands. I believe, and I could be wrong because I walked out just a little bit before it was over, but I think we're the only mid-major that got an at-large bid, 1 or 2 maybe. The rest of them were automatic automatic bids from conference tournaments. And so I'm like, if you get this, this is huge. Like, this is huge. Like, and so take pride in that you're right there. And so it's something that, you know, the room was light. We had fans, we had admin, we had a good meal. And so it's just, I don't know, like, to do it 2 years in a row is so special. And everybody wants to win the tournament, but like, to do it as an at-large is so cool to me.
Well, if you ever give up coaching, by the way, you should just join us in the podcast. You're right. You're the only at large mid-major. Very well. I did not even catch that. That is fascinating. Great job by you on that. I didn't. Thanks. Lost that track there. So I want to ask you about Tim Walton, because some people may not be aware. In a lot of ways, you wouldn't be where you're at without Tim Walton. Kind of talk about that. And what Tim has done for you, because in a lot of ways, certainly Courtney Deifel is one of your mentors, but you probably won't even meet Courtney Deifel if it wasn't for Tim Walton.
Yeah, I mean, I owe Tim for me being in college coaching. You know, I was a school teacher in Mississippi, and, you know, it was one of those things that I thought I was going to be a teacher the rest of my life. And I was okay with the salary. I was okay with the trouble that comes with being a teacher and all the things. And I met Tim, and Tim was like, you need to be in college coaching. And I was like, I'm good. I was like, I wasn't an All-American. I wasn't on Team USA. Like, nobody's going to know who I am. And my personality is, if I can't be the best at something, like, I don't want to just like be a college coach, just to be a college coach. And so he made some phone calls. He knew Courtney. He knew Jeff Long when Jeff Long was at Arkansas as the AD. And I'm forever indebted to him. And, you know, I got a call from Courtney, and I was like, dang, like, I don't love favors from people because I always feel guilty, but this is one that I will forever be thankful for, because it's paved the way for me to have this awesome life, and this job that, you know, it's almost become a hobby instead of a job. So that's kind of the backstory. But Tim, thank you if you're ever watching or listening. Can't wait to see you soon, buddy.
Well, you'll see him up close and in person this weekend, Coach.
I told the girls, I was like, listen, our goal is to actually play Florida in this regional, right? Like, last year we were 2-Q. This year I'm like, we're going to play them. Like, that is your goal. Like, this is what we are getting to. So fingers crossed the Owls show up.
All right, we'll let you go on this. I have to ask this. Okay. You have one of the best jerseys in the country, the powder blue.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, let's just cut to the chase. What do I got to do to get one? What do I got to do?
What do you got to do? You coach, you see how Eric's looking for himself and not realizing that I'm the one. Without me, he don't produce the podcast.
I know. Well, maybe you guys might have a little surprise. We'll see what we can do.
Duly noted.
Sounds promising. We got to do what we got to do. I like that. All right, Coach. I know. Congratulations. You're well deserved, and really on the seed that you earned that seed, and I'm glad that the committee gave you the seed that you'd earned. I'm really excited for you. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us here, and good luck this week, and thanks for talking to us.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Go Owls.
There she is, ladies and gentlemen. Woo, she's the best.
Y'all ladies just saw how Eric was pining for a jersey and did not even reference me.
I saw it.
I'm not going to lie. The Rodney Dangerfield of this of D1 softball. No respect whatsoever. Hey, Lopez, how would you like to produce and edit a show by yourself tonight?
Wow.
I can make that happen.
We're getting salty. We're getting spicy.
I know. What are we gonna do? I had to make my pitch. I had to make.
Hey, I got this. Hey, I got the spice right here. So, hey, let's go.
There you go. Very good.
Well, I think we got some more good stuff coming up. That was really cool to hear from the only mid-major program.
Wow.
That made it as an at-large, and she knew right away. I love that too. She was.
By the way, I did get confirmation before we bring on our next guest. According to our chairman, the last 4 teams in: Georgia Tech, Northwestern, Indiana, Washington. The fact that Washington was one of the last 4 in.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that, though. I'm not surprised by that. I had them. I was under consideration for the last 4 in. I had them at 60 in my bracket. That's 3 Big Ten teams by my mathematics calculations there. So that sounds about right. Did he say who the first 4 out were?
Did not say.
I would assume he had to.
We're not surprised.
All right.
I have the first 4 out. It's BYU, Nevada, North Texas, and Purdue.
Yeah, that's the 4 I had. Those are the 4. I think I had Iowa State just out of protest. But yeah, that's the first part. That sounds about right. No, I did. I mean, I
What
think
a year for Iowa State. Yeah.
a
credit
great
for that.
year, and I think they've
What a
exposed the
season.
RPI as a flaw there as well. So, but no, hey, listen, that's we'll have more on that. I know our very own Justin McLeod is going to be talking to Kurt McGuffin tonight at some point, so we'll have more answers probably later on from him.
Yeah, sounds good. But we actually have another guest to welcome in who is backstage. We are thrilled to have her. We'll welcome her in now. Hello, Coach. Amanda and I will be chatting with you, and we are so excited to do so. This is Joe Evans, for all of you who don't know, which you're crazy if you don't, but the head coach of UC Santa Barbara, as well as an NFCA Hall of Famer. Just first of all, welcome. Congratulations, of course, on the conference tournament championship, but also hearing, your name called and figuring out where you're going tonight with the selection show. Oh, Coach, I think you might be muted. I'm sorry. See, the SIDs and the support staff and everyone are the real MVPs. We appreciate it.
Nope.
I like seeing the setup, though, there at Santa Barbara. I think it might be an audio thing, like not muted in StreamYard, but maybe allowing your microphone, for example, to let it in.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, we sure can.
You're in.
See,
Okay.
great talent makes adjustments.
So much for the MVP. I mean, Nick, we're going to have a chat about that later.
Yeah, MVP right there, for real. It takes everyone. It takes a village. Well, thank you. Welcome again, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. It's great to be here. You were talking about waiting to see where we're going to go, and obviously not a surprise that we were going to go to UCLA.
Yeah. Yeah, very fair. But you're also one of the shortlist. You're on the short list of coaches in Division I college softball who have been to multiple NCAA tournaments with different teams and different programs, which is pretty impressive. How do you think that this team compares to the others that you've seen over your long career?
Well, first of all, it's just hard to believe, that I've been at 4 schools and been able to just have players, that can play at that level, to postseason, and just how much fun it is every time you go. It never gets old. It's always exciting. And I think, when you're asking, like, how does this team compare? I just want to say, in terms of this moment and being in postseason, playing in the NCAA tournament, it's one of my favorites, because this is a dark horse team. This is a team that nobody would have said they're going to be playing in the NCAA tournament in May, and here we are. So to me, as a coach, those are always the most exciting teams to coach. It's the most exciting time. I've been on the other side where you knew your name was going to pop up and you were looking to make sure you were hosting. You were one of those top 16 seeds, and now, like, obviously we knew we were in, but to have these kids on championship Saturday do what needs to be done, and then they've never been, and they've been watching since they were a little kid. They've been watching the World Series, the Supers, the regionals, and dreaming about being there, and choosing Santa Barbara and thinking, will this actually happen for me? And now it happens. So I'm fired up. I'm so excited for them.
Well, Coach Evans, first of all, I love these colors on you. California is treating you well. You have a certain glow about you, and I really love that for you, from 2 Southern California girls.
Yes.
I think also you love it because it's kind of that gator blue,
Oh, maybe that's it.
Yeah, you might like that. No, thank you for saying that. I love being here. I love living in Santa Barbara. I love my California kids. We're just loaded with them. It's pretty much all we have is California kids, which is just great because we've got a really nice fan base now with parents and families. But yeah, I feel really fortunate to be at a place like Santa Barbara.
I just love that. But I wanted to ask, like, is it a sense of like you feel this freedom as a 4 seed? Like you said, there was a lot of pressure before of knowing, am I going to host and be in that top 8 seed? But now being a 4 seed, like there has to be a sense of fun in that
Yeah.
and freedom to know that, no one chooses you guys, and all that needs to choose you are the only ones that need to choose you.
Yeah. And we, come into this with our program hasn't been to postseason since 2007, I think it is. So had never won a conference championship ever. And so those things are like, that's huge. And
Yeah.
so when you're looking at you're a 4 seed, you got to go to Westwood, the great tradition and the national championships. But it's like, for me, I see it like we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. And, are we positioned to go win the College World Series? No. I mean, I think it's safe to say no. But are we positioned to then like build from this day forward the tradition of playing in postseason, to knocking off top seeds in a regional, to having an opportunity to upset teams and potentially move in onto a super regional? I mean, I just look at it, this is a great starting point for us. It happened probably earlier than anticipated. And it's someplace for us to kind of hang our hat and go, okay, here we are now. And every year we expect to get better and better and have opportunities to really make a run.
Yeah. That's very, very good point. And honestly, just again, for some of the newer fans to our game to understand, you know exactly what it's like to build a program, right? 27 years at A&M, 22 NCAA tournaments, 7 Supers, 3 World Series. But then Utah, too, at your alma mater, 7 seasons, going to the World Series in 1994. And then Colorado State, of course, for 4 years and a 2-time conference coach of the year. I just needed everyone to know, just in case, first of all. But second of all, the inaugural Big West Conference tournament. This is the first time the conference has done that.
Yeah.
That experience, I would love to hear from your perspective, knowing like, wow, you've seen so much from our game so far.
Yeah. I've been really pushing for a conference tournament, just in a conference like ours, just to give opportunities for student athletes to feel like they have a chance to do this, that on any given weekend, somebody can knock somebody off. And especially in a conference like ours with so much parity, it's pretty equal. We're not out there giving kids hundreds of thousands of dollars to play softball. We're all pretty even in terms of great academic schools and good softball programs that are growing. You have Fullerton, you have Long Beach, who have been established for a long time, and they were kind of running the table every year. It was going to be one of those two that were going to go, and on a good year, both would go. Somebody getting that large in the automatic, and now it's a totally different game. It's a different feel. It's now more parity and an opportunity for schools like us to get on the map and people to understand we're out here. We're out here and we're doing things, and we did the thing, this weekend, and I was really proud of our kids. And you bring up Colorado State. I mean, and talk about building programs. I'm passionate about it. And at Colorado State, I remember taking that job, and I think they'd won 7 games the year before I got there, and 2 of those were forfeit wins. So, like a first-year coach, soon as we won like 8 games, like right on, I'm not going to get fired. Here we go. Here's the beginning, something big. And, to end up winning the conference in that 4th year and then going to my alma mater, and they were, 1 game below 500. And then we went to the World Series the next year, the 2nd year, and then again. So two World Series at Utah. And then that opened an opportunity for me to go to A&M, and then, the 3 World Series and all of that. But and now I'm here, and it's like, I picked this place. I wanted to come here. I wanted to live in Santa Barbara. I wanted to go to a program that I thought that I could make a difference. And it's been so cool that the kids have bought in, and we're having a blast.
Oh, I can just like hear the passion and the excitement when you talk about it, and it just like makes me grin. Like I love that for you and your kids. I mean, that's just so priceless. So you guys are obviously used to getting in the bus and going for some series. So how do you think that's an advantage for you heading down to Westwood? Obviously, just a short bus ride away, but always also your fans will be able to come, and so how do you think that will help you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we're no stranger to bus rides, that's for sure. And there's something, kind of quaint about getting on the bus and going to the ballpark. The days of charter flights, that's not a thing. And it's just it just is, it makes for a really tight knit group. And what I want for this experience for our kids, though, is not just to be another drive down the 101 and the freeways that we're always on, and then, okay, let's just get off and play in a tournament. I want to get creative and try to figure out how we can make this feel different for our kids. This is a big deal that these kids are playing in the NCAA tournament, and I want it to feel like a big deal. I don't want it to feel like every other time we drive south on the 101. So we'll kind of brainstorm about what that can look like, but I think obviously having our fans there is going to be a really great experience. It's funny, when I first came here, we played and I was like, where are the fans? And I don't hear anything. The fans that are up there, like, I think they were sitting on their hands waiting to go get
You're like,
cocktails.
where are the sugar daddies?
Yeah, nowhere in sight. Nowhere in sight. But they were jamming in Santa Barbara. The parents were probably down in downtown Santa Barbara and picking their kids up after the game. So it's just been really cool to see the parents buy in and the families, and now they tailgate before the games and just create this whole atmosphere that you see a lot in these other conferences. And we just want to kind of mirror that so that our kids and our families have a great experience. So it'll be great to have them down there. And I've coached in that stadium many times, and have an affinity for Sharon Backus, who's just such a huge part of the Bruin history, and Sue Enquist, of course. And these people are legends from my young years, and thinking about how would you like to model your coaching career, and Sharon Backus being just the biggest introvert head coach I've ever been around, and a fierce competitor, and just what she was able to establish, and then Enquist take it. And now Kelly, I'm proud of Kelly and what she's done, and it's going to be fun to be down there and be a part of it.
Muted. You're
No,
muted.
this time it's Jenna
Come on,
muted.
Jenna.
See, it happens to all of us.
It even happens to Stanford grads.
It does. It does. Look at me.
I would blame Nick, but I don't know. I don't think
No,
I can.
not Nick this time. That was Jenna. No, but it's you guys have been fun to watch this season in general too. I mean, when you have Johnson in the circle, she's the pitcher of the year, right, in the Big West, and you got 6, I believe, on the all Big West conference teams and all that stuff. But then to also see in the tournament, you won 6 elimination games to get that championship.
Yeah.
So just, I think the culture of the team you've touched on too, but just like that talent, that sort of X factor, I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's, I've coached some really talented teams, and this team could possibly be the grittiest team I've ever coached. And it's just so cool because that grit, that translates, doesn't matter your skill level. You can have that, and you can have that want to, and you can create an amazing culture without all Americans on your team. And that's what we're doing at Santa Barbara. That culture uplifts everybody. And, I'm just really proud of the way these kids have owned it and get after it. So what was the first part of your question? I think I forgot.
No, I mean, it was just all about the talent. You covered it, and
Yeah.
just that X factor that seems to be there, right? And it's
Yeah.
just cool to hear it from your perspective, being in the day
Yeah.
to day.
And
Yeah.
what's cool too, though, is that we've gotten so much better. Like as a coach, it's so rewarding to get to teach the game. I'm getting to do things now that were things I was doing as a young coach. I feel like I've come full circle in this. And they're sponges. They want to get better, and they have gotten better. And that's really rewarding. And you mentioned our run in the conference tournament, 6 elimination games. 6 times those kids had the chance to go home,
Yeah.
and they would not quit. And we got on a roll, and we're actually playing like good high level softball. We're turning double plays. Our pitchers are throwing outs. We're hitting the ball out of the yard. I mean, nobody gave us this. This isn't like a kind of tiptoe through the back door. We beat number 1 Fullerton 4 times this year. We beat them to get to CSUN and Hawaii and all of them. So, I mean, I don't talk a lot about the talent of our team. And I think part of me is skewed because of where I've been for so long in the SEC. But relatively speaking, these kids they can flat out play. And I'm just really proud of them owning that.
You talked about making it special and not just seeming like a normal series on the road in a bus ride. Sounds like they've earned a really, really nice steak dinner. I think there's a lot of nice places down the 101 that you guys can find. And I think your first championship since 2007 sounds like your administration should be more than happy to flip the bill for that.
Okay, so Amanda, I need to tell you, we win the championship, and all they can do is chant in and out. In and out.
Girls, raise
And
the bar. We need
know.
filet mignons.
I know. I lean over to Joy Jackson, who's coached with me for 30 years, and I said, okay, this right here is like golden. These kids won a championship, and they are so blue collar and humble. They're chanting for In-N-Out Burger. I go, why aren't they chanting for steaks? I mean, let's go. And it's just awesome.
No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
There's
really cool.
something about that where they were just so happy to go to In-N-Out and hang out with each other. And they took the trophy everywhere they went. It was
I love it.
out in the bathroom and everywhere else. We're gonna have to sanitize that thing. But
Well, hey, we're both from the 805. I'm from Camarillo. Amanda is from Moore Park. We can give you some recs if you do want to step it up.
that sounds great. We're practically neighbors. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, we love it. Well, thank you so much, Coach. Congratulations again. We can't wait to see all you guys do at the LA Regional.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Appreciate you guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
She's awesome. Let's
Oh
get
my
our
God,
other
that's
friends
awesome.
back in. But she's so great.
The fact that they wanted In-N-Out after bringing home the first conference championship.
That
Could
In-N-Out
not have made me feel
anytime.
more like a diva. I was like,
Look,
girls,
annual-
like, come on, we need a big steak dinner.
Hey, I was with you. They
Steak
can
and,
In-N-Out anytime.
steak and lobster. Amanda's like steak and lobster. They want In-N-Out animal style with the fries and the shake and everything.
Oh gosh, but it really was so cool. You could definitely see how passionate she is about Santa Barbara and how much she's loving building something new there. So that was really cool to see. That was definitely a different side than I'm used to seeing with her in those Texas Aggie colors.
Oh yeah, you guys probably the friendliest y'all have been. In a while.
We never had words.
Yeah. No words needed before this.
No, we were all good. No issues there.
Oh, that is funny. That's hysterical. Well, really cool to hear from both of our guests. I mean, both really awesome women who are doing a lot of great things. And on both coasts too, coast to coast. It was cool to get that perspective. The last item that we have is to take another quick look at what this final field looks like.
Yes.
Get some thoughts on this. And our friend Eric has joined a UCF softball media. So he's getting the scoop on what's going on with the Knights too. But
actually, Jenna, I have some breaking news. Eric is actually in that softball media. He's actually called a last second mental health therapist because of the shock that he had from seeing UCF traveling to Austin and not going to Tallahassee. So he'll be joining that Zoom in progress, or probably getting the recording and typing up a story about that later on. So just want to let y'all know.
Here, I'm trying to have his back cover for him, and you're just throwing him right on the bus. The bus that UCF could potentially have to take to Austin. I don't know. I think that's
like the bus that Liberty could take to College Station, or like the bus that Binghamton could take to Eugene, Oregon. But let's get to the actual brackets themselves, if you don't mind, Jenna.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Here is the first set. So taking a look at, once again, the number 1 seed on the left, the number 16 national seed on the right. So the potential of who would meet in super regionals. We saw A&M, of course, and we saw Oregon sneak in there as a national seed. But by no means do either of them really have an easy time of it with the teams that they got, especially looking at those 2 seeds with Liberty and Stanford, respectively.
Yeah, I think with College Station, Marist and Liberty is going to be a very interesting 2-3 matchup, because you got matchup of 2 players of the year. Rachel Roof from Liberty. Of course, Liberty was 1 out away from advancing to Supers last year in Athens. And then Marist with Maya McDonald, the 2-time MAC player of the year. That's MAAC, MAC, if you will. And then St. Francis, the Red Flash, they win the Northeast Conference Championship earlier today. They learn about their tournament fate tonight, and now they got to get back to work and get ready to to take on the number 1 national seed. And of course, Jenna, we all know your familiarity, so I will defer my time to the UG region to the gentlewoman from Palo Alto.
Well, yes, Oregon and Stanford both obviously in new conferences this year. Oregon getting that regular season championship in the Big Ten. Stanford making it to the quarterfinals is when they were eliminated in the conference tournament for the ACC. They had the number 5 overall seed out of the 15 teams in the conference. Obviously, the familiarity plays a factor, right? But at the same time, Stanford's pitching staff, for example, didn't have a ton of experience before this year. So not a staff that Oregon hitters have seen a ton, or that Missy Lombardi has seen a ton. But the hitting piece has been the big thing for the Cardinal. I mean, over 80 home runs this year. They've set program records in multiple categories, both individually and as a team. But going up against a Lindsey Grine, who Amanda and I had on the D1Softball podcast this year, and she was fun to watch all season long, even back at Mary Nutter when she got that win with Oregon over Tennessee at the time. Amanda, remember how she was so nice and kind and very bubbly when we chatted with her, but then her on-field persona, she even talked about how it's just so different.
Yeah, the way that she talked about how much she loves competing and how much she loves her teammates, that makes it a little bit scary if I'm one of her opponents, of just how it's very scary when someone is so invested in the people around them and so determined to win. And we definitely could see that. Well, she's very sweet and smiley. She's an ultimate competitor, so I think it's going to be really fun to watch her compete at home in Eugene.
Yes, at home. Huge for the Oregon Ducks. All right, moving along to the number 2 and number 15 seeds, OU and Alabama, respectively. But then again, Cal for the 2 seed in Norman, Virginia Tech for the 2 seed in Tuscaloosa. And then you talk about Boston all the time, Victor, too, because we know how competitive they can be. And you even mentioned Omaha, looking at that Norman Regional as a team to watch.
It is not going to be a easy regional for the Sooners to eventually overcome, because you got Cal's offense. Then you have 2 great pitchers that the nation are going to get to see. Matty Groff in Omaha, 1.70 ERA, top 10 in wins, top 10 in strikeouts. And, of course, Kaylee Ricard from Boston, who once again won the Conference Pitcher of the Year, leading Boston to a 3-peat in the Patriot League earlier today versus Army West Point. But Ashley Waters, she probably has to wonder, ladies, what did she have to do to get in the good graces of the committee to stop being sent to Norman, Oklahoma every freaking season? It's like, look, we get that I beat Oklahoma back in 2018, 2019. Now you got to maybe trying to replay that every time I make the postseason?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a fair question, right? Like a very fair question. And then even taking a look at how this lines up, if OU, right, pulls it out, if the seed holds there and the seed holds in Tuscaloosa, the fact that Alabama is one of the teams to take a series in the SEC over the Sooners is also an interesting just consideration as we look forward to how these things shape up potentially later on as the NCAA tournament progresses. But Virginia Tech, man, they got a chip on their shoulder. They were not happy, of course, with playing in the rain and how it led to 13 walks at the end of that semifinal game against Clemson. And they end up blowing the 9-2 lead to lose 10-9 in that semifinal. And they already, I think, started to have a chip on their shoulder towards the end of the regular season for the ACC. And I think they're coming for blood. So that is going to be an interesting one there, too. All right. Next, I think Amanda may have a little bit of interest in this next one here with number 3, Florida, and number 14, Duke.
Yeah, I think that huge respect and congratulations to FAU, a mid-major, getting the 2 seed. Obviously, a testament to what they've done all season long. So another tough regional, obviously Georgia Tech. I feel like we've seen really some high highs and some low lows from them this season. And then Mercer, we spoke on before about just the storyline as well. Coach Lindsay Fico, a Florida Gator herself, played for Coach Tim Walton. So and then more storylines with matching up with the Duke regional. Obviously, Coach Marissa Young, she has a daughter, Layla Lamar, that plays for the Florida Gators. And they've already played twice this season. They actually split those games. So obviously really competitive. And then they have Georgia as the 2 seed, which I feel like Georgia has been the thorn in the University of Florida's side in the postseason. It usually goes Georgia's way, which obviously I do not love as the biggest Florida Gator fan there is. And then you have Coastal Carolina and Tori Tyson's Howard Bison. So I'm really obviously intrigued of this matchup. And I love the familiarity of I like the storyline of the family piece, but also they've split this year. So we know that the potential matchup, if the seeds hold, obviously, could be a really good super regional between Florida and Duke. They were obviously they met really early in the season. So I think if you asked both of these head coaches, who they are now is not the team that they were when they had faced. So I think that's also going to be different, but they definitely split with some large margins before. I think Florida put it to them pretty good in game 1, and then Duke did the same thing to them in game 2. So it's going to be good, but I'm just so excited for all of these matchups. It really feels like parity is here, but I don't even know if it feels like parity because everyone seems so evenly matched. Like anyone can be anyone, truly.
Totally. And Duke is an interesting one because they had some great non-conference wins over like Florida, as you mentioned, but UCLA, Mississippi State, Nebraska, Liberty. There were different teams that helped elevate their RPI that I think helped them get this host situation here as a national seed. But I will say too, they also took it to Florida State in that semifinal. It was a close game, 3-2. It was a close one. It could have really gone either way in the end. But I think they're starting to be back on the climb a little bit after maybe a tougher middle of the season. And Georgia Tech, Addison Leshber had some timely hits. And then I would give credit to Sophia Voiles in the circle too. From what I saw at the ACC tournament, she's the one who shut out Cal for that opening run rule victory to start off the tournament. So ones to keep an eye on. And then Howard, you mentioned Tori Tyson. Actually, Sachelle Palacios, when she was on site with us at Mary Nutter, also got to sit down and chat with her when Howard was there. First time they'd ever been to California as a program. And she talks a lot about their culture. So recommend going back in our social channels and taking a look at that too. All right. Arkansas and Arizona potentially matching up as number 4 and number 13. Oklahoma State in that 2 spot. You keep talking about that, Victor, how tough that's going to be.
Yeah, the ghost of Courtney Deifel's past, she may have to exercise if she wants to get to Oklahoma City first with Oklahoma State. And Indiana once again making it because of the strength of their running the Big Ten tournament, mainly because of that win against Washington. even though the committee had both of them as the last 4 in. And then St. Louis, the Pelicans, a great job winning the Atlantic 10 championship. Congratulations to them. Arkansas, they need to figure out, can they finally protect Bogle Park and then potentially have to deal with the team that eliminated them a few years ago in Arizona. Now, Arizona, they don't have an easy path either. They got Ole Miss, who beat Arkansas in a series this year at home and has shown flashes of being a dangerous 2 seed. But Grand Canyon, what Coach Hayes continues to do with Grand Canyon, winning their 4th straight WAC championship, they're one of the there's a reason why and Eric brought this up earlier. There's a reason why we have had them as the number 1 team on our D1Softball mid-major top 25 for the majority of the season. They can play defense. They got great pitching, top 5 ERA in the nation, balanced lineup that can beat you in a multitude of ways. And Santa Clara, quiet as kept, they went on a hot streak to win the West Coast Conference, including absolutely demolishing Oregon State on their senior day, putting up 15 runs against the Beavers. It's not going to be an easy road for Devin Netz and company. How do they get that bad taste of their mouth from the Big 12 final versus Texas Tech and recover those regionals?
Yeah, Devin Netz, Big 12 Player of the Year this year, first ever, of course, in program history for Arizona. And I did see Santa Clara in person too. The final ball game in Stanford Stadium, the football stadium. It was a midweek matchup versus Santa Clara and Stanford, and they actually went scoreless for 4 innings or so. Stanford did end up getting the run roll, but it was sort of the weirdest run roll I had seen in a while because they were so neck and neck in a pitcher's duel for a while leading up to those final innings. So very interested to see that, especially with an Arizona team that has multiple arms in the circle this year, not the injuries that they had to deal with last year. Should be a good one, really, regionals and leading into supers, regardless of how it shakes out. All right. Florida State and Texas Tech, the 5 and 12 seed, respectively. But once again, some solid teams that have made it. And we learned, too, Amanda filled us in, Washington, one of the last 4 in as well for the NCAA tournament in this bracket in the first place. And then Auburn, we saw in Clearwater have a fantastic start, tough SEC, but going undefeated in that tough tournament, as well as Florida State in the same regional. Amanda, I know that you're familiar with some of these Florida teams too, just from your time obviously playing in Gainesville, but playing them every year, it seems like there's that in-state rivalry with Florida State, but then even South Florida. You mentioned Georgina Corrick earlier that you faced back in your time. So interested to hear your thoughts on the competition here.
Yeah, I think that South Florida has had a really great year, and so you knew that they were probably going to head to Gainesville or Florida State. Auburn obviously started out the season really hot, and since has definitely faced some struggle within the SEC and just how tough that schedule is. But excited to see the Malvos make it in their first year, and you know that they've been there before. They know how to win in the postseason, so they know how to prepare their group for what to expect. And then as Florida State goes, I mean, you know, as well, but just the thing that I always see, no matter what, but especially this year, is the way that they play for each other and Kocha. They just love their head coach so much. And obviously with Kocha and her breast cancer battle, and she's been open about that, and just the team rallying around her, I think that they have a unique purpose this year, obviously playing for Kocha and wanting to make her proud. Obviously she would say that she's proud no matter what, but I just have always really respected and admired how much her players really love her and love to play for her. It really seems like a true family atmosphere, where they just play so free because you know that they know that their worth or how much they're loved does not matter what they do on the softball fields. It's just who they are as people. So I know I'm a Gator, but I've always been a Florida State fan in the way that they play the game, and and love each other and the way that they love their program, because that's what we all want, right? We all want to just go to a college program and love our head coaches and love where we are, love our teammates. So they're always scary to me, especially in the postseason, because of that togetherness, because of that family atmosphere. That's really hard to beat, because at times in the postseason, it's just about who's peaking at the right time, and getting almost this sense of no one can touch me, that I'm all the way up here. All that matters is now. And I think Florida State does that so well. They just play so free. That's why they're so successful in the postseason for a reason.
I think you nailed it. I really do. The Seminoles are definitely a special group. And also one of your future teammates with Michaela Edenfield, who will be joining the AUSL Volts, which is super
Yes.
exciting.
So I'm ready for her to get hot here. I'm ready for her to get hot and end her college season on a high note, so she comes in ready to freaking roll and hit some Area 51 bombs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and literally roll right into it after the World Series,
Yes.
potentially, if they make it to watch AUSL. And yeah, Amanda, when does season start? Give us that plug for AUSL.
AUSL starts June 7th. So literally right after the World Series, we're starting, we're getting ready to go. We report May 27th. So we're going to start some scrimmages and some spring training so that we can go right into this thing.
Can't wait. Cannot wait to watch. And you actually, the league will get to play at Washington too, looking at that Lubbock region, which is pretty cool, as well as multiple other college campuses throughout the country. And can't skip this slide or move on without saying something about Nigeria Kennedy. I feel like all we need to really say is her name, but now the most outstanding player as well at the Big 12 tournament. She's actually on the screen right now talking with ESPN as the post-selection show, some of their coverage that they're doing. But we're excited to see her in the postseason as usual. All right, next group. Texas and Clemson, a couple of orange teams, number 6 and number 11. It's too bad Eric's not on this one with the UCF situation there in Austin. But Victor, I feel like you can fill in for him. What's some thoughts there?
Well, UCF has had a very fun, interesting season, to say the least. They had a dramatic walk-off home run to start off the Big 12 tournament, and then they lost to Arizona. The thing with UCF is that Isabella Vega has been their rock in their rotation. Caitlin Felton has been used, and as what Coach Sidney Malone has said, and Eric has repeated it many times, high leverage situations. How does UCF handle playing out of state for the first time in program history in regionals, going to Texas? And then they have to deal with a Michigan team who is playing some of their best softball at the right time, winning the Big Ten tournament, running roughshod to UCLA in the championship game. That will be an interesting 2 versus 3 matchup. And then you got Eastern Illinois. Tara Archibald leads the program, joins her dad to coach Texas Tech, and the Panthers still find a way to win the OVC and get the automatic bid. It'll take on Texas. Now, Texas, a lot of people feel Texas was one of the favorites to make it back to Oklahoma City and win the national championship. They've been a little bit more inconsistent towards the back end of the season. That blowout loss to Texas A&M, Team Gavon did not pitch, notwithstanding. How do the Longhorns respond after that bad taste in their mouth leaving Athens? Meanwhile, in Clemson's run to the ACC tournament, probably Ja Rimmons' best coaching job since he took over that Clemson program. Our congratulations to him. I'm fascinated about Kentucky being a 2 seed here in the Northwestern, getting in simply because of that series win versus UCLA. We thought they may have blown it when they lost to Purdue in the Big Ten. This should be a region that Clemson could easily win, but USC Upstate and Chris Hawkins, they have a dynamic offense. They will put pressure on the Tigers if they get on base. They're one of the top base stealing teams in the country. So Clemson will not have will not have easy work in this regional, but if they play the way they played in Boston that you saw them, Jenna, do this week en route to the ACC championship, they should get out of this region with relative ease.
Yeah, I think the energy is there too, for sure. I mean, they just seeing them in Boston, what the presence was. John Rittman, having played for him during my Stanford days, is really more of a low-key presence on the field. I mean, every coach has their moments where maybe they get a little more high energy, but for him, he's really pretty chill, just the casual handshake when you're coming around third base to hit a home run. But I've saw him the most pumped up I'd probably seen him on the field this week, and that was being fed to him just from the dugout and from the girls themselves. So a lot of credit as well. Reese Basinger, of course, getting pitcher of the year in the ACC, but credit to Brooke McCubbin for her performance. She was also all tournament, as she should be, because she came in on relief in very key situations, including that championship game against Florida State. And then, Maddie Moore and even Macy Cintron, just the freshmen they have on that team. It's going to be exciting this year, but also in future.
And the crazy thing is, before we move forward, the fact that Clemson in year one AC after Cagle breaks through and wins the ACC tournament title.
Absolutely. That was a huge question, right? A huge question for them. And look what they've done. And even after that one win, and I think they went 1-4 in Clearwater, but they've gone, 40 and something since then, just totally turned it around. And that's what you want, that battle testing to come in handy. All right, a couple more here. We're going to speed through these. Knoxville, of course, and Baton Rouge. So another potential SEC matchup in the Super. But man, Ohio State, that Knoxville regional is not easy. Ohio State's been pretty consistently in our top 25 in the last several weeks for D1 softball. We talked about what Miami, Ohio has done earlier on in this live as well. And then North Carolina, I mentioned it too. Kenna Dark, quite a job in the circle for the Tar Heels. And then Sanaa Thompson had multiple diving catches in the outfield, as well as a couple of timely hits too in the tournament itself. And I just think that they're very poised and in a position where they want it. They want it badly, and that's where it starts. But what an interesting one there in Tennessee.
Yeah. How does the matchup Kenna Dark against that Ohio State offense, that is a absolute, that has 17-13 written all over it between those two teams when those offenses really get rolling, especially what Corinne Kumar has done. And also, you have Ohio State, where Corinne Kumar is coaching, and her previous employer, Miami of Ohio, with Mandy Gardner-Colgate as the 4th seed. So there is a chance those two could play in this regional.
Interesting. Very interesting. And we do have ELO, Eric Lopez, back on with us here as we look at the last couple of regionals. ELO, we're looking at Knoxville and we're looking at Baton Rouge. And now that you've had a little bit of time to process, I'm sure you need more. But now that you've had a little bit of time, what are your thoughts on these?
Well, you got Jordy Ball in Baton Rouge. That's not ideal if you're an LSU fan, that's for sure. The Knoxville region, I'm not surprised. You certainly have the Kumar storyline there against Miami, Ohio. I'm really happy for North Carolina to get in. They can hit. Kat Rodriguez in the stage will be very fun to see, but certainly all eyes are going to be on LSU and Nebraska in that potential showdown there. That's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right. Well, we got the final couple of regionals to take a look at here. Always super interesting looking at number 8 and number 9, because you're looking at that last team that could potentially host a Super versus the first team that just missed it. South Carolina, number 8, UCLA, number 9. And Eric, I know you said in particular that 7 through 10 portion of the national seeds in general was going to be extremely close, and you can make arguments different ways. So the way that this shapes out, obviously we got to chat with Joe Evans from Santa Barbara looking at that LA regional, but plenty of other outstanding competition here between these two.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm a little surprised that Arizona State is the 2 and San Diego State's the 3 on that one. That surprised me. I would have flipped it, but nonetheless, you got Kenzie Brown, and which Bruins pitching staff's going to show up? They've been very shaky as of late. And then you got South Carolina playing very well, get the 8 seed. Virginia is the 2 seed. Jenna, you're very familiar with them. And then North Florida in their first ever NCAA tournament, winning the A-Sun and with Elon. So it's a fascinating regionals. I think both teams have to be careful because both teams face arms that can knock them out of this regional. So to me, that's very fascinating to say the least. The other thing that kind of jumps out at me, by the way, looking at these brackets, I'm wondering if we're now a step closer to seeding 32 teams, because I've studied this. this feels more like a 32 seed bracket than say you're seeding just 16, because some of this doesn't make sense from otherwise if you were doing 16. This makes me wonder if we're getting closer to a 32 seed, seeding the 32 teams like they do in volleyball, for example, Jenna, which I know you and I cover.
Yeah, that's true. And that's the other piece too. And we've gotten some questions just as we've gone through this live too around the conference tournaments and how much is weighted for those automatic bids versus, regular season champions or just the body of work that some of the teams have. Do we place too much weight on conference tournament champions versus other factors? And would that affect it if we decided to expand this to a 32 team seeding?
It's a good question. And I think my thing is, you got to be consistent. Did Oregon get in because they won the Big Ten? Virginia Tech didn't win a conference. If so, why wasn't Oklahoma the 1 seed? They won the SEC. So I think that's kind of something that I think it's to be determined, Jenna. I think that's certainly something to monitor in the coming times. But certainly it's going to be fascinating to see with these pairings and how they match up. But I this one thing that jumps out at me is I think you're looking at a Liberty going to A&M. You got UCF going to Texas. These are not normal. This feels like, hey, maybe a test drive to maybe the thought of going to 32.
Yeah. It's certainly going to be interesting. And now that we have taken a look at not only what we thought it might be because of Eric's brilliant bracketology, but what it actually is, maybe I would ask to wrap up each of us to, and I'm putting everyone on the spot, including me, one word to describe your reaction to this bracket.
I will quote Eric Lopez and go first. Drunk.
Okay.
Because when you see Marist and Liberty going to College Station, where Liberty usually goes to Knoxville, that kind of tipped you off that, okay, that might be a little bit different. Then you see an Omaha and a Boston with two of the top non-power conference pitchers in the same regional, then you knew it was going to be weird. Then the icing on the cake was Eric's absolute deadpan expression, like when you thought his screen froze for 10 seconds when UCF got sent out to Austin. That onto itself was just, and maybe after listening to Eric's soliloquy, I think this might be a test run where we go to 32 national seats.
Yeah, this was not a good night for the ACC, which is strange to say considering they set a conference record with 9 bids. I know it sounds bizarre, but Virginia Tech doesn't host. And I'm telling you, Jenna, we talked about it on Saturday. You were there in person. That semifinal game is going to be dissected in a lot of what ifs as a result. If they win that game, or are they hosting tonight instead of Oregon? That's part of it. But I look at this. Duke draws Florida in the supers. Yo, that ain't going to be easy for them at all. Florida State draws Texas Tech. The ACC might get shut out of the World Series this year. They got brutal draws. In the Big Ten, I mean, kind of an interesting night. I think it's an overall success to get 8 bids for the Big Ten. That's interesting. They have certainly solved the metrics that is known as the resume metrics and the computer trickers, if they will, in some of those cases. But interesting. And I am bothered by the fact there was only one at-large mid-major, Jordan Clark, brought to her. I don't like that. I don't like that direction of the mid-majors, and I'm wondering if the conference realignment has made an impact on that. We'll see. It's just 1 year, but we'll see.
Well, it's interesting because even take out the new teams in the ACC and the Big Ten, and they still got more teams in than they did last year. But it's where they are, like to your point, Eric. So what's your word? We heard your thoughts, but what's your one word to describe this?
What's a word that I can properly say?
Yeah, I'm about to say, keep it clean, please.
Interesting. That's real. It's interesting.
Okay.
Not bad though. I do like some of the things they did. I like the fact they have Texas Tech ahead of Arizona. I want to see more of that moving forward. The team head-to-head matter. I do think there's some good things here, but there are some interesting questions here that I'm very curious about By the way, I love Stanford's draw to get all considering all the options, Jenna, that Stanford had and not had by not being able to host. I think they match up well with Oregon. I think you're going to see a lot of upsets in this regional. I would not be surprised if we have multiple double-digit seeds get to Oklahoma City.
Interesting. Amanda, your word?
My word is intriguing. I was just like very intrigued to see what the seeds were going to be. And yes, like Eric said, I think that we're going to see a lot of upsets. And I just can't wait to be locked in for all of it. And it's a good sign when you have like certain teams upset, like Virginia Tech upset with their road or their path and not hosting. Like, that's not good for Alabama to get a mad Virginia Tech team that can play some really good softball. So yeah, I'm intrigued.
Interesting. Yeah. These are all good words. So drunk, interesting, and intriguing. For lack of a better one for me, I'm going to go with strategic. Or dramatic maybe is a better one. I feel like they were scheming. Maybe scheming's my word, meaning the committee loves the drama, right? So for some of these paths that are set up, and even, or whether it's like you said, Virginia Tech not hosting, I mean, fan bases are going to be fired up, and that means it could be some billboard material for these teams as well. And I think we're always here for that. So it's an interesting one.
Are we gonna make picks for the World Series?
I think we save that for this week, unless you guys are ready. If you're ready,
I am definitely not ready.
Okay, yeah, we're not ready.
I actually am. As crazy as it sounds, I am ready to make my prediction. By the way, I am repping the jersey of the reigning Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. They're playing right now, so that's why I'm had to make my change my apparel. But I'm ready to make my pick right now. Hold on.
Your pick to win or your pick for all 8?
No, my pick to win.
Okay.
Based on what I saw, I'm gonna make my pick right now.
Oh, I wonder if this is a surprise we've been waiting for.
I'm going with the GOAT. I'm going with the GOAT.
The 5P.
Patty Gasso, Patty LaBelle, Patty Cake. Students win title number 5.
All right, Natty Patty, you heard it here first. That's Victor's pick. We got to hold you to it now.
I want to hold this post so y'all can tweet at No Context Softball so y'all can ridicule me.
Oh, Amanda's taking care of that for you. Don't worry. Amanda's taking care of that right now.
Thank you, man. I told you I was a surprise.
I've been waiting for it too.
This is a very, very good way to this is a good description of the night, the brackets. Yes.
Now this is a goat. Now this is a goat mask. Eric will say this is another animal that starts with the D. It can be referred to as a,
Didn't say anything like that.
The Sooner fans are gonna love that out of you.
Yeah, and everyone else is gonna hate it.
No.
The Sooner fans will appreciate it though. They'll appreciate.
Where do you get a goat mask? Where are you going for getting a goat? Where, like, give me the breakdown here. Like, are you hanging out with Lee Corso?
No, Shannon Sharp.
Wait,
hey, he reps Go Jays. I go Gasto.
Now I think I see the horns. I didn't see those at first. Wow.
You did not. Look, I love Amanda taking things on her camera. She's got her phone up.
Go Gasto.
All right, let's hope you can breathe in there. But
yeah.
We got one pick. On that note, exactly. I think the three of us will noodle on it a little longer before we pick. But thank you all for joining us. This was a long one, and so many of you tuned in, which was amazing. And we are so excited, as usual, for Mayhem and to see the NCAA tournament play out. So many cool things to come. And you can get it all on D1Softball.com too. Actually, we do have an updated and refreshed website, which is super exciting. You can get a discount on a subscription with D1 Softball with the code NEWLOOK20. That's a 20% discount on your subscriptions. And then we do have our annual bracket challenge as well. So you're able to not only watch the bracket play out, but participate a little bit. The regionals are set. Figure out who you think is going to come out on top in each step. And the D1 Softball bracket challenge is presented by our friends at Chinook Seedery. So keep an eye on our website and social channels for more info there. You can fill out your bracket soon. Otherwise, signing off for the podcast crew here, from D1 Softball, from the D1 Softball podcast and In the Circle presented by 643. Thank you all for joining, and we will see you throughout Mayhem.